and it literally took me 10 seconds to verify the information that you were confidently shit-talking about 30 seconds later. So right here, and if you come after me and you're fucking wrong, I'm gonna nail you to the fucking wall. I'm gonna harpoon you to the fucking wall with whatever stupid shit that you say to me, and I will make it uncomfortable.
We are doing the Reverie Roundtable, which we do 8 p.m. Easterns on Mondays. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, and consider coming on to a live thing of this taping. It's not a taping. That's like old. That's like boomer talk right there. But to come over and join us. Also, of course, if you can't, whatever reason, right? You can still support the channel. Still support because we have YouTube membership. Hit that join button and help us out at any level of membership that you think would be appropriate. But yeah, assist the channel so that we can keep providing you all this great stuff. All right, I'm going to introduce these amazing individuals, and then we will get started. Starting with Lorenzo. Lorenzo, thank you.
You're such an asshole. Holy fuck.
Lorenzo, much appreciated. How are you doing? You were here first time on Saturday. Now you're back today. How are you?
Back tonight. Feeling great. I just took a nap before this panel because it is 1 a.m. So I'm here for you, Prem. Just for you. Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah, so my name is Lorenzo, but I go by Nefarious Online. You can find me on Twitch at Nefarious P or on Twitter at NEF Politics. I'm a progressive streamer / content creator. I also play video games. Definitely check that out.
Thank you. Next is my man Mad Lad. No, I'll go with you.
That's fine. I smiled too early. I was used to like looking at the delay on stream, right? Yeah. So hi, I'm Mad Latin. I panel here. I am a professional chess coach. I stream. I've been streaming very intermittently, but we're gonna fix that. I've been streaming slightly more often, and we're gonna get slightly more streamy. So if you want to check me and my stuff out, I'm gonna post my link tree in the chat. Follow me on Twitch to catch me when I test out all my stuff. I just published a chess book. This is the chess book. It's beautiful. It's called The Next to Last Mistake. It's going to be probably the best chess book ever having been published. It's about what to do when you screw up playing chess, and nobody writes books on that. So get a copy. That's in the link tree too. Happy to be here. Excited about the topics. And yeah, let's do this thing.
Thank you. Next, we got a VIP. His name is Counterpoints. He's back with us once again, right? Always holding it down. The most reliable guest, hands down. Unbelievable, right? Counterpoints. Seriously, thank you for being here. How are you?
No, I'm great. My name is Connor. For the uninitiated, I identify as center right. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I'm a law enforcement military veteran, so I'm on theme with everybody else. Everybody seems to have a red background, so I'm a swap between red and blue tonight. And that's pretty much it. So I love debating stuff. I love the topics that we picked tonight, and I'm excited to get into it.
Okay. And Counterpoints provided those topics. He helped us out. And coming up with those topics, very much appreciated. Next, we get Spectre. Spectre, one of our amazing mods, as long with Mad Latin, didn't shout him out for that, but one of our amazing mods. Thank you, Spectre, for being around. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been doing the streaming thing again. I'm working on some video essays for YouTube, and just enjoying life and taking it easy.
Love to see it. Thank you. Next, we have someone we haven't had here in a very long time, quite a few months, but he's back with us again. Hello, Rob Noor. We welcome you back to the Reverie family.
It's great to be here. Glad that you proffered an invite. I like that I'm the only person without a cool name. Just going with my OG mother-given name. But you can call me whatever pronouns or slurs that you all want. And I'm sure the majority of your audience, there I go again, fanatic talking to the audience, will want to call me many a name tonight. But that's okay. I enjoy my role here. When you're one of the only people that's right in the Twitch politics sphere, it's good to get out there and share that message with everyone else.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Next, we will... Oh, man. And then the first time I've ever called this the Reverie family, I'm like, this would be a really unhealthy family. Holy shit! This would actually, like, not want to be a part of this. Would want to get like emancipated. But thank you.
So like a
much.
real family. Okay, got it.
Like a real family. Indeed. All right. All right. Next, we got Mr. Fanatic. Yes, he is here with us again. Yes, he's one of our favorite people to have on stream. That's why we ask him all the time. Fanatic, how are you?
Whew. Listen, I am great. This is going to be an amazing, amazing conversation. I mean, I'm shocked that some of the cowards have come out today to be on the panel. I'm not going to name anybody, but you guys can do the math. You know what I mean? This is really good. I'm really excited for just what it is. I uploaded a song today. It's actually like being sent to all of the different distributors. So that's incredibly exciting to me because that's what I actually do for a living. So I'm finally releasing more music. This is a really old song, but it just takes me forever to get the courage to release stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited for these topics. Yeah, it's going to be a really great day. I promise.
Thank you. All right. Next, Problematic Pan. All right. Who like never lives up to his name is actually quite nice. Pan, thank you as well for coming through. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I don't know what Rob was talking about. This is my parent given name as well. My mom named me Problematic Pan. That's why I might not be, may not live up to my name. It's just my God-given name. It doesn't describe anything about my personality. But it does describe where you can find me on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/problematicpan. Give me a follow. I only have banger takes, and you'll see that demonstrated in full force tonight.
Thank you. And last but not least, our Dark Lord and Savior is here again, right? Maybe our second most reliable guest, right? But that doesn't mean we appreciate him any less. Thank you, Doobie, for coming through, right? It's maybe not as convenient for you today, I know, but you still made time for us, and that is very much appreciated. How are you, Doobie?
I'm doing very well. So as Prime said, I'm Doobie, and I have the N-word pass. Prime, thanks for having me on.
Okay, well, all right, well, we're gonna have to leave that one alone.
For
Fight for
now.
another day. Topic 1. Militias are on the rise in the U.S. We see them over the past year at protests both for and against BLM. Are there any benefits to having a well-regulated militia? Is that even a thing? Do we want armed groups that offer a challenge to the state's monopoly of violence? Or will these inevitably be essentially legal armed gangs that pose a threat to our society? Again, credit to our buddy Counterpoints. Thank you, Sephorus. But thank you for being so kind as to sub to the channel. It's really kind. You just came out of nowhere. But thank you for the sub. Helps sub a ton. Anyone else? Sub, maybe? Give bits, give subs. That helps out a lot too. But anyway, thank you so much. We're going to do opening statements, starting with Matt Latin.
So I have like a lot of content and a lot of thoughts on this specific topic. I'm going to try to keep it short just because I want to see what direction this ends up going in. I mean, a well-regulated militia is a part of our Constitution. It's like literally, and that term is literally used in the Second Amendment. So like, there's I think there'd be a lot of troubles in trying to remove the concept of a militia. What they actually do and how effective they are is wildly questionable, though. And we'll get into that after I hear everybody's takes, because like we can go in like 10 different directions on this. And I'm just curious where everybody's at.
Thank you. Nefarious.
Yeah, so generally the benefits that we get from militias are usually outweighed by the negatives. You can't really challenge a government like the US, especially on its on the military, because it puts a lot of money into that and the technology is actually insane. And would they be acting as armed gangs? I would probably say yes, and I'd say that's what they act as now. I don't think that's inherently bad. But yeah, I'd definitely say so.
Got a shout out to Sophia for being so kind as to give 552 because I didn't think anyone actually would. Like that was kind of like wishful thinking, but she did. Help us out a ton. Start us off on the hype train, level 2 hype train. Help us get to level 3 hype train if you would, if you'd be so kind. Sub to the channel. If you think we give you great content, we haven't really given you any content so far. That's true. But we like if you potentially think we might give you great content, sub to the channel, give bits, give subs, helps out a ton. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to counterpoints.
Yeah, so I don't think the militia concept is outdated. I think it's a check on power. I think it's a decent way to basically check the power of the central government is to have a free and armed population. I don't want the perception of freedom. I want actual freedom, which I think is basically necessary to be able to abolish your state by force, particularly if it becomes tyrannical. So I think these things are incredibly important. I do think that we need to do a better job of basically articulating this culture to people who are confused by it, because I think it's a fairly rare thing in history for a people to basically claim this right. So I do hope to kind of explain what I think the benefits of it are, and also to kind of expand people's interest in the concept. So I'll leave it there for now, but I'm excited for the open.
Thank you, and thank you, Taking Else, for gifting 3 hot 2 on gift subs. This is a surprise hype train, so like, hooray! Anyway, we're at 50% done, 50% left. Can we get to a level 3 hype train? Actually, might be a possibility. I don't know. Kind of people like you are helping us out. Remember, sub, gift bits, or gift subs, or resub. That helps out too. And thank you, Eucharist, for resubbing and being the first one to start this whole thing. Anyways, let's see if we can make it. We have 2.5 minutes left. Let's go to Spectre.
Yeah, so look, I used to think that militias and guns at protests were probably a good idea, that they would reduce the amount of violence due to the fact that, somebody sees you have a gun, they're less likely to punch you in the face, hopefully. But all the data that I've looked at pretty much prepping for this panel, surprisingly enough, seems to indicate that it's actually 6 times more likely for a protest to erupt into violence if protesters on either side are armed. That and 84% of armed protests in the U.S. Have been in reaction to BLM protests that were peaceful. So it doesn't really work out well from my side. I would say that a well-regulated militia probably wouldn't be an issue, but I don't think that these militias are being regulated, and they're definitely not being regulated well. So if we could fix that, maybe we can have a conversation. But as things are right now, I think that we have to do something.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Counterpoints. What? Thank you for being so kind. I have to give 5 hot tier 1 gifts to the channel. Helping us out a ton. I had
a good day today.
Oh, that's great. I mean, thank you, seriously. That means a ton.
I don't think that's ever been the problem here. and by that mean, I just get my ass kicked.
But thank you for the kindness, and thank you, Wicked Domingo, for gifting 100 bits. Because of his kindness, we're at level 3 hype train, 11% done, 89% left. Can we get to a level 4 hype train? Help us out. Thank you so much. I didn't think we'd get this far. Sub, gift bits, gift subs, resub, or continuous sub. All that is a huge help. We have 4 minutes left on the clock, so if we can do it. Rob Noor, right? Rob Noor. Okay, look, what's going to happen? He's going to use a sexy voice, right? And like, you're going to realize this is top tier content. Like, I gotta invest in this channel. If they're bringing people on like Rob Noor, okay, well then there's no choice about it. Go ahead, Rob, make us some money.
You want me to use a sexy voice? Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh yeah.
Don't worry, I'll get squeaky here in a minute as I get into it. So, yeah, I agree with Connor. There's a reason to have a militia as a check on government power, and we absolutely can see. You can see in places like Australia what happens if you don't have the right to protect yourself. So I'm sure we'll get into that. As far as like militias that are more loosey-goosey, here's the thing. You have a Second Amendment right to arm yourself in self-defense. You have a right to free association. So if people collectively come together, as we're seeing, and want to give themselves a moniker or whatever, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, regardless of what their political affiliation is. The last 2 things I'll say that have been mentioned, because I'll try to keep it short, is if you are a person that thinks that the police are corrupt or are systemically racist, then you should be in favor of the average person being able to arm themselves, because you don't want to give the monopoly on defense purely to the state. And the second thing I'll say is, one of the reasons we're seeing an increased drive in this sort of militias that probably a lot of people on this panel don't like is because there has been a movement to encourage or downplay violence occurring over and over from the left, and telling the police that they should not step in to do them. I predicted early and often that if you did this, you would see things like people take matters into their own hands, like Kyle Rittenhouse. And that is absolutely what we'll continue to see, because if you engage in violence or defend this violence and force the police to stand down because you want to defund the police or think they're bad, yes, eventually people will defend their own property. So we get into it though. Let's
Thank you. Yes. Again, how about that hype train? Gift bits, gift subs, or sub yourself if you like the content we're going. Oh, also because someone asked me to. Hi, Boji. Thank you. Thanks for being around. I hope you're watching and feeling good today. All right, let's go to Mr. Fanatic.
I think when it comes to the militias, I think the whole point about them being like well regulated, I think is the most important factor. I think they're absolutely necessary. We've obviously seen in various places what a usurpacious government can do, what unchecked power is actually like. So I think that's somewhat of a problem. I think, especially when you start like considering like when things, the more uncertain times get, then I think then probably the more justifiable I would find them. I think the fact that we've put them in the Constitution is not the idea that they'll always be needed. I think it's more so about the concept of making sure that, making sure that they're available at times when we do need them. And I think sometimes we'll see that obviously we get different results whenever Black people decide to have militia versus when white people. Open carry for Black people is different than it is for white people, as everything in this country seems to interact differently with African Americans. But I guess there's more to get into in the open.
Thank you. Less than a minute left. See if we get that hype train level 4. But thank you so much for people who have that so far. Problematic Pan.
Yeah. So I think that right now, obviously, militias aren't, doing the providing the benefit that we want them to. But that's because they're like an insurance policy. Therefore, when or if a government becomes tyrannical, we shouldn't. While it might not be beneficial to have them in like a time of peace and relatively okay government, like right now, the cost of not having them when the government gets tyrannical is so huge, we can't afford to, be caught off guard. So I do think that even if, there is a slight disadvantage right now for militias existing, we need militias. And, I'm willing to pay that small cost now in exchange for when if the government does become tyrannical, we have organizations there that will, be able to help prevent the tyranny.
Finally, Doobie.
So I guess if we went like full caveman brain, we could think of some benefits that might come from having PTSD rot veterans, meth addicted conspiracy nuts, and LARPers who couldn't cut in the actual military, running around in the forest in body armor, pretending they'd do anything but be labeled domestic terrorists and droned if they actually rose up against a fully based, tyrannical U.S. government. But it seems like the real negatives massively outweigh the potential positives. So I think it's silly.
Wow.
Doobie.
my man knows how to do a fucking mic drop, honestly.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
Open panel. Yeah.
Okay, so militias go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to Doobie real quick. I would rather take those former people that fought for our country that are addicted to meth than the pedophile terrorists that we see the left defending all the time. So if I had to put my money, I'd take the meth.
And the veterans are the same people in that analogy, though.
What?
No, not. And what's worse than that is it depends on what their roles are. Like if we're not talking about like who we want to be rioting or who we want to be doing some sort of protest. We're talking about who's going to be the people who are going to have like a very unique, power that allows them to sort of cause justice to occur. And I think like the idea that we would want any people on drugs or with PTSD that are like literally the authorities who are supposed to be the ones holding society together at the same, those things are not the same at all. And I don't think anybody, including Rob Noah, who made that statement, would actually want that, right?
I think that he was being tongue-in-cheek and making a joke about a lot of people that have PTSD or have drug problems.
No, I wasn't. I was being totally serious.
Okay, well, they consider themselves in those groups, but it's funny coming from you fuckheads that will defend
totally
pedophiles like Rosenbaum that are out there marching, saying, shoot me N-word in the name of Black Lives Matter. But it's cool.
Hold on. To be clear, I think all those Antifa nutbags should have been rounded up and put in a cage somewhere. Like, I'm not...
Cool. Damn, boy!
Rioters. Like, what are you talking about?
God, Doobie!
We've missed you, Rob. Right? It hasn't been the same about you.
So I'm gonna actually focus on the militia part and less about like the recent events will be applicable soon. But like, okay, so militias are not just an insurance policy. Like the idea that a militia, like a well-armed group, like operating within a country, is almost like it's not just insurance when there's a tyrannical government. It's also like something that a government would consider before passing bad policy. And this isn't just in the United States. This is everywhere. Like if you look at it historically, like I mean, just like looking at like France, like for like the 80-year period after the French Revolution on, like their National Guard, basically acted as like this independent body that sort of tried to keep their authoritarian leaders in check on some level, and with varying degrees of success. So I think militias are important, and I think we do actually have well-regulated militias, like in the form of our National Guards, right? Like each state has its own National Guard units, and those are its own independent, well-regulated groups that you could kind of equivocate to being a militia. So I think we already have things like that. If we're looking at the folks who are quote unquote LARPing in the forests and body armor and stuff, those are a different group altogether, and I think those groups might be a little bit more concerning, not just like on the right, but like anyone, right? Because if you have a situation where we can't even agree on what authoritarian is, right? So like the left thinks, or let's look at what the right thinks for actually. So the right thinks that vax programs are tyrannical, and then the left thinks that like sending ICE to round up protesters without any identification is tyrannical. And we've got like a lot of different things that different groups think are tyrannical, and we can't agree on these things. So if you have a bunch of armed people who have different ideas of what tyranny are, and they have guns instead of words that clash about these ideas, then we're going to have civil strife. So like I think
really quickly, but that's not the like National Guard wouldn't be a militia, right? Because a militia needs to be like something of just citizens, like untrained and unprofessional, like that, like that's pretty much what a militia is. Like if we start like taking actual government entities, now I understand this is state government and not federal, but if we start taking government entities and trying to label them as a militia, I think that starts getting a little bit absurd. And the idea that like any of these things would actually be any sort of check against the government is, I think, absurd. And I get the militias aren't exclusively, they're not exclusively like insurance policies, but I think there's enough evidence to pretty much suggest that that was like the spirit behind why they were talking about well-armed militias, right?
You should Google militia.
It should be able to be raised like to support basically the actual military in the state of emergency. It's usually what a militia will mean. Either that or like they'll respond to like terrorist acts.
No, that's not
sure.
That's not the spirit.
If you go to the Wikipedia article on militia, and they talk about it, it says the National Guard is a militia force organized by each of the 50 states.
Yep.
But sure, listen, but it doesn't refer just to the federal government, but clearly they like will often be used to uphold certain things and edicts of the federal government. And I can't think of any times really where the National Guard has been used as some sort of force against the federal government.
Yeah.
Well, can you think of any times that the federal government acted in a tyrannical manner that required that sort of necessity from the states?
But listen, so
probably a few.
Militia doesn't. Militias can exist outside the government, right? Because militias can exist outside the government because that's the entire idea of the Second Amendment and the spirit of why it was created. Because the founding fathers understood that governments can get tyrannical. So you don't want a militia in that term that they're saying you have the right to arm and protect yourself, only being agents of the government, because they were worried that that government could become corrupt. So clearly, militias, although they can't exist under state authority, could exist outside of that state authority as well. And the idea of, can you think of an example of when the government's become tyrannical that required an outside state militia? Well, it's not just that. Arguably, there are many times, like, for example, you could say that about slavery. If we had an outside state militia that would have been able to fight back against slavery, that would have probably been a good thing, right? So that was a decision, right? That's true. Right. So sure, it's happened. But the point's not just that. The point is to be a check, because if people have the right to be armed and to come together, which it doesn't matter what you think about whether you like those groups or not, they absolutely have the right to be armed, and they absolutely have the right to come together. Well-regulated just means basically trained and well-equipped enough to be a force. That's all. Can I
back up Rob here definitionally? Because basically, like, you can go to a website, it's called guncite.org, GUNCITE.org, and they basically have like a whole bunch of historical documents that like corroborate this definition, where well-regulated didn't mean regulated by the government, it means well-trained trained or well disciplined. So within the historical context of the time, it absolutely meant like free people. And as a matter of fact, like, you know, it's kind of silly because to even have this conversation, because the founding fathers and pretty much for the entirety of the 19th century, most government officials didn't even think the United States should have a standing army. They wanted to disband it every single time there was a conflict. So like, so what really frustrates me whenever we have this conversation, not anybody in this room, but we have this conversation where they're like, oh, well, they wrote stuff with feathers, so we don't know what they meant. And it's like, no, it was 150 years ago. They wrote books and shit. We know what they were talking about, and we know what their politics were. So you have to accept the fact that from a historical standpoint, the founders of the country wanted the people to have firearms, to be self-reliant, and to check the power of the federal government. And you have to move on from that point and then ask the question, is that good or is it bad? And to what extent is it good or is it bad?
Rob, do you unironically think a couple of people with guns can take on the American military?
Yes.
It's not the point. It's not just that, right? Like, let me respond to that with a question. Do you think that the American military would nuke the United States?
Why the fuck would they
the United States?
Yeah.
Why would they
Yeah,
nuke us when they have
we'll
drones
probably
that
have
can snipe us
some-
out
I'll
of the
get to the
sky?
point.
The police
Right,
would
do you
show up,
think they
take
would
their
use
toys away,
Apaches?
and then they'd kill a police officer and be on the news as domestic terrorists, and then they'd get fucking rounded up by the army or something.
Yeah, right.
I don't.
Sorry, my bad.
Unless you're
Asking the
talking like a
lizard talking
mass
about math.
uprising.
Doobie, you're the
Yeah,
kind of
don't ask
person
me
we
to
would
listen
want to
to
check
that. So
power
if you allow me
against,
to
so I'm not
finish-
taking advice
The
from
reality
you.
is,
Tell me
people-
like
the reality
realistically would
is,
play
the
out.
reality is that when people talk about, well, these militias couldn't take on the U.S. military, they're doing a point-by-point comparison, saying the military has Abrams tanks, they have Apaches. That shit's not going to be used on American citizens. The point is
Waco?
this: the
Waco?
people's right to
Do they
defend
use
themselves
Apaches?
does imply that there would be a certain mechanism of defense that these militaries wouldn't be used as they would as a hostile power in another country. And so
Hold
the
on,
fact
but
that we
this
have the
would
right
be
to
a-
arm
this would be a
ourselves would be
domestic
enough of a
terrorist
deterrent to. But it works better if you let me finish before you talk. The fact that we have the right to arm ourselves works as a deterrent from preventing that conflict from even happening. Whereas if you are disarmed, then a tyrannical government doesn't even have to have a standing military in order to take your right to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
what we're talking about,
cost, right?
wait,
If you
one
want,
second. What we're talking about isn't a tank being used against random ass citizens in the street. We're talking about a domestic terrorist group that is expressed and probably enacted, right? Its desire to fight the U.S. Government and kill government officials, whether they're like state officials or like police officers or whatever the fuck.
Okay, but Doobie,
Right,
can
so,
you
yeah,
can
if
you
you
just
have
back
these people-
up?
Under
Can
a
you,
tyrannical government, we want that, right?
in some makeshift fort somewhere, right? Saying that they're not going to turn over the weapons when the police show up, right? They are going to pull out the
Waco.
fucking tanks. Absolutely, they will if they have if they know these people
Okay.
have like machine guns or whatever.
Okay, Doobie, can you hold on really quick? Can you just back up real quick and like can we run through, because none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. I swear to God, I know exactly what Rob like is pointing at, which is basically like people think military versus militia. Let's line up all our pieces on a chessboard. There's 70 million people who haven't done cardio since 2004, and then there's like predator drones. Let's see who comes out on top. That's not how civil conflict works. That's not how politics works. That's not how insurgency works. Like seriously, like the thing about this entire concept is that like Doobie, number one, like I don't know how much of your personality is memes, but you're the exact kind of person that I don't want deciding who gets guns, right? Because if your perspective is that only the government gets guns, that's kind of part of the problem. Number two, what I would say is that basically like irregular warfare, like nefarious, you keep nodding your fucking head, acting like we weren't like
Shaking.
the world's big shaking. You keep shaking your head like the United States, the world's most dominant military power, wasn't beaten as a conventional force by the Vietnamese and the Afghan guerrillas within the past decade. So seriously, like okay, and let me point out this other thing that's
Why did the
annoying.
U.S. lose the Vietnam War?
Okay, so what's that?
Why did the U.S. lose the Vietnam War? Did they
Oh,
get, like,
maybe
overpowered
because
by the
their
Vietnamese?
forces exhausted the will of the political will of the United States of America.
Yeah, so they didn't get beat by guns, right?
they had guns.
Oh, boy.
We gotta break this down like fucking Barney style. Okay, seriously, I bring up this quote. I understand. I don't think we've met in the past. Okay, so there's this quote by Karl von Clausewitz, which is very important when it comes to conversations like this, which is basically that warfare is politics by other means, which basically means that like you don't extrapolate into a neat binary warfare or politics. They're a continuum of each one. So when diplomacy is on the table, you use diplomacy. When when mixed things are available, you use a combination of force and diplomacy. When war is the only option, then you use war as the option. So that's the thing. It's like, stop thinking about like whether or not the NVA or the guerrillas won militarily. They didn't win militarily, but they exhausted a global empire with technology that was literally like a century greater than theirs. And as a result, that exhausted empire basically, retreated. And not only that, but if you were talking about having a conflict within the United States, they would be destroying the very resources that they're reliant on in order to fund the military expense in the first place. A civil war is infinitely more destructive than a war that's conducted on foreign ground.
Do you feel like the U.S. would just
can I respond?
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
So why did the U.S. back off in Vietnam?
Can I come back?
He'd already answered that.
I just answered. I just said it like 10 seconds ago.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I can come back.
Wait.
Wait, one second. So, I'd like to just respond because to be clear, I don't think that if something like this were to happen, it's going to be like a total war game, right, where everybody's lined out in the field and they fight each other really neatly. Right? We could look at something like Lorenzo brought up, or Nefarious, whatever the fuck your name is right now.
Waco.
The Waco, the Waco siege, yeah.
Sure.
Right? So you had one group of nuts somewhere in a compound, holed up together. The government wanted to come in. They said no. They fired at the government officials, so they burned the fucking place down, right? So and they'd be labeled as domestic terrorists. Right? They'd be rounded up there, and if not there, then at their homes. And if you're affiliated with this group, hey, you're going on a fucking list. And if you're caught somewhere out in public, you can get rounded up just like everybody else, right? This isn't like I don't think it's reasonable to say that any of these groups, even if they had 1,000 members, right, could put up like an actual fight against the government the moment they made their intentions clear to resist the government with force.
Okay, Doobie, but if I can see, hold on, Rob, real quick, if I can concede this point that like basically a holdup group in a compound isn't going to be able to withstand the force of the United States, can you concede that politicians will take it into their political calculus, knowing that whatever legislation or executive action they take will be balanced by the ability of average citizens to resist their will with weapons? Like, can you?
Well, I think they take it. Wait, hold on. I think they take it into account, but not in the way that you're thinking. Because if I were a politician, right, and I was pushing a really important piece of legislation, and I knew that there was a chance that people on the other side of the aisle, their supporters, might go out and kill people over it, or try to kill me over it, I'd fucking do it because that's a massive political win for my side of the aisle. Why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I want and go out and kill people? That would make a lot of sense to push my side of the aisle's agenda, right? Because now the other side is populated by nutbags.
Right, there are people like you.
They're not going to be just nutbags, though.
There are people like you that cheer for death and think, oh boy, we'll push people to the point where they feel the need to do something terrible so that we could use them. By the way, that's probably what happened January 6th. You saw these left-wingers that cheered for violence over and over again. I predicted if you allow one side to engage in violence, predictably the other side will, and then the left will say, oh my God, see, this is a political win. So I'm glad for that admission that you would do that. You're also wrong about it. Real quick. You're also wrong about exactly what happened in Waco. Actually, what happened was the government came in and started shooting first, including shooting through closed doors. They also used tear gas to the extent which they admitted they knew would cause torture to the children that were in there.
But we're talking about the technical stuff, not the
but
not the broader idea.
I just want to say you're wrong. Lastly, what I want to say is I don't understand what your point is here, Doobie. Like, you're arguing there is no specific militia in the United States today that could overtake the U.S. government. That's true. Connor and I are talking about the needs to protect the rights for people to form militias and how that is a check on tyranny. But you're right. Could the Branch Davidians overthrow the government? No. Could the Oath Keepers overthrow the government? No. But that's not the purpose of the Second Amendment and what we're talking about when the Founding Fathers were talking about well-regulated militias.
Yeah, as the government gets more and more tyrannical, the people who are part of these militias are going to become more and more mainstream. So we're not going to have just these wackos. Like, if the government gets tyrannical enough, there's going to be, a bunch of people who are relatively normal who are going to be supporting it and actually fighting in it, right? So the idea that just because right now our militias are full of maybe nutbags doesn't mean that in the future, against a tyrannical threat, it would still only be the nutbags fighting. No, people like counterpoints would join the militias and like fuck some shit up. So like, if
that's
the
not
government
a good
was truly
thing.
tyrannical.
Well,
it is.
Well, then don't do crazy shit with the government. Then don't do crazy shit with the government.
What crazy shit? What's crazy shit?
What's crazy shit?
Anything tyrannical.
No, not anything tyrannical. We deal with minor infringements on rights and civil liberties all the time, which is why we need to be specific with our language and we need to not be hyperbolic. Name a thing. I would say the Patriot Act and drone bombing U.S. citizens without giving them a court date would be something that's like flirting with a little bit of tyranny. You know?
Okay, give me. Okay, that is tyrannical. Give me something that would not be tyrannical that you would say would justify a militia.
I think militias should be justified as default. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question. Can you ask it again?
Or I'm basically. Can you think of anything that's tyrannical that you would say that doesn't justify a militia?
Can I think of things that are not okay? Let me give you an example of things that are not.
No. That's not what I asked.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you think of anything that's tyrannical that doesn't justify a militia?
No, I think that it's
so you would agree that then you would agree that anything tyrannical would justify a militia, and are reasons why we would why the potential for anything tyrannical is why we have the militias allowed, right?
No, makes no sense. Again, we're starting from a right to form a militia. The default is you have a right to have a militia. You saying, but aren't there tyrannies that could be solved without militias? Of course, that doesn't.
That's not what I'm saying. My question. I'm sorry if you didn't comprehend. That wasn't my question.
Yeah, can you explain it? Can you explain?
So what I'm basically saying is that the reason why the founding fathers wanted to create the militias is because they had the fear of a tyrannical government and becoming incredibly usurpacious, and their need to be able to for the citizens to be able to arm themselves against it. That was the entire purpose of it. So when I'm asking you, is there anything tyrannical? Because you're saying no, it's not just it's not. That's not enough. I don't understand where the disagreement is. It sounds like all of us would agree that because of the potential of tyranny, that's why we would have a militia, right?
Doobie doesn't agree with that.
I don't agree. So I think I agree that this right exists. I think that it shouldn't exist.
Right. So we're starting with different premises.
So
wait. But saying the right to form a militia doesn't mean we want to repeal the Second Amendment. I still believe in American citizens' rights to bear arms.
Separate from a militia.
Organized, that's the problem.
Because I wondered if this to ask a question of human fairies. How can you say that we have the right to bear arms, but we don't have the right to associate together with that arm bearing?
Yeah, in
practice.
That
all militia is in effect?
So
yeah, it's just people getting together in order to train. What's the problem? I'm asking you, buddy.
When you form, I'm trying to answer. When you form an organized group, that's sole purpose is to attack the U.S. government, then you're a terrorist organization.
That's not the sole purpose of the militia.
Okay, so
what's the other purpose of the militia, though?
Candy in the neighborhood?
Yeah. So actually, I wanted hold on real quickly. I wanted to answer this.
It's not a problem. That's fine. In those cases, sure, I'm positive. In all cases, if there is a tyrannical government, if there's a militia that's fighting against the government at that point, they would be labeled as terrorists from the government's perspective. That's fine. We don't have to debate that. We're saying that clearly the framers made it such that they wanted it to be that in those cases, labels be damned, we can still do that, and that's exactly the purpose. We all, I don't. Does anyone here disagree?
No,
do we disagree?
It's like
do you disagree if there's a case in which the government is being tyrannical and usurpacious? Do you believe that we should be able to have militias for such cases?
Yes, but the only problem is I don't think we could get there. Sorry, was that directed at Doobie?
It was directed at Doobie, but I'm pretty sure it's literally to everyone. I think.
Well, I can answer the question. So, no, actually, I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay, you're too far gone.
Yeah, so I think that again we're dealing with massively different definitions of what tyrannical would be, right? Some people would say that the COVID vaccine mandates today is over the line. The government's forcing you to put this vaccine in your body, and yada yada yada. Right? For some people, that's tyrannical. That's over the line. Right? For some people, requiring fucking driver's licenses is tyrannical, right? So I don't think that there's any point at which I'd agree with the correct response to quote unquote tyranny is forming a militia and murdering police officers and shit.
What is something that you believe is tyrannical? I don't want to hear what some people think is tyrannical. I want to know what you think is tyrannical, and that you think we shouldn't have militias against that shit. Because there are some crazy people out there who think driver's license is tyranny.
But that doesn't matter.
But that doesn't. Yeah, it's relevant.
Can you think of, Doobie, the same way I asked counterpoints earlier, can you think of anything that the government would do that you feel is tyrannical that a militia shouldn't respond to?
Like
No,
I don't know,
can't think
like
of
an
anything.
ethnic
So
cleansing.
unless wait, hold on.
like,
So wait, so
Then
Fanatic,
exactly-
one second.
Go ahead.
Fanatic, 1 second. So unless we're getting to like fucking what Connor brought up, like ethnic, the government for some reason, all of your elected representatives decide that it's time to just murder all the white people, right? Then yeah, I think it'd be totally reasonable for them to defend themselves with weapons.
Sure,
Right?
we
But
don't
I
need
don't think
specifics.
I
We don't
don't
need
think I don't think we're like anywhere near like these fucking
that's not the
fantasy
point,
levels
though.
of
That's
violence.
not the point of the
gotcha.
principle.
We're not there right now,
if-
but the whole purpose was the question asked in general, which I'm glad you answered generally, even though you tried to get into specifics, is so you agree with me in those cases in which the government becomes tyrannical, then it makes sense to have that. And that sounds like you agree then with the founding fathers who that was their intention when they came up with that idea in the first place. It's the
So-
idea that we should be able to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. Now, I understand the word tyrannical can be interpreted loosely by idiots and be used unscrupulously, and then people can start saying, "Oh, everything is tyrannical," and then justify all sorts of nonsense. I get that, but that's not. As long as you agree that in the cases in which it is something that is genuinely tyrannical, we should be able to have that. That's exactly all. We're arguing.
Okay,
about.
so hold on. So I said it'd be reasonable for them to like want to rise up with weapons and shit, but that's still, even in that scenario, I don't think it'd be a very good time for them, right? If it's just like the citizens.
Nobody thinks it's going to
So-
be a good time. That's the whole
And
point. It's
that-
supposed to be a
that kinda-
fucking
hold on,
deterrent, so we never get there in the
wait.
first place.
That kind of scenario, right, would probably to like an open like revolution, right? And that would be including like many components of the actual like military. Right, so if we're getting to like those fantasy levels of like either ethnically cleansing the white people or something in this country, yeah, I guess in that scenario, yeah, we'd probably need a revolution. They'd probably need weapons. But I don't think we're anywhere.
What do you mean
near that.
fantasy?
So if I
Before,
can,
not
right,
in
if I
America,
can,
but it's happened in other countries.
So to jump in here, right? So first off, like, let me kind of reach towards kind of what Doobie's saying. I personally don't feel that there's any issue in the United States today that justifies political violence. Period. Not in the right, not in the left, right? That is not the express purpose of a militia, right? Like, first off, the way you're talking, Doobie, if we ever got to the point you're talking about, it would be impossible to that point to go, oh, okay, now it's got to the point of genocide. Let's raise a militia now. We've taken away the American people's right to have a militia for the past 100 years, to have arms, but now we'll do it now. It'll be too late at that point. The point is, the most effective use of a militia is as a deterrent. They don't have to pick up the guns because they have the right to pick up the guns. And the government knows that, and tyranny knows that. And not just the government and tyranny, but on a more personal level, the person who wants to cause you harm knows that. If you have the right to have a gun and have the right to protect yourself from aggressors towards you, then you're less likely to have to need to use it. So you seem to be thinking like the only purpose of a militia is for 10 people to get around drinking whiskey and go, we're going to overthrow the government. That's not what's happening. And to the effect that is happening, yes, if people are using violence to actively overthrow the government, absolutely the government should treat them as a terrorist organization. That's different than just having the right to have a militia.
But the militias are not acting as a deterrent right now, because like 84% of the armed militias that we see actually acting are going to BLM protests. And what they actually do is they make it more violent. Roughly 1 out of 6 demonstrations where firearms were present included reports of violent or destructive behavior. And for demonstrations where no firearms were identified, that's only 1 out of 37, right?
But Spectre, that's
correlative. I want to hear from
I
want to hear from Lorenzo counterpoints, and then who else wants hands raised? Okay, Mad Latin Fanatic.
So the U.S. has a plethora of checks and balances to prevent this exact thing from happening, okay? What you're proposing is using militias as another form of checks and balances. I personally, and looking at it from an empirical perspective too, this specific form of check and balance damages the U.S. and especially the U.S. population more than it helps, as Spectre pointed out. Also, another thing is that if you're at a point where you're like taking up arms against the government, like why does it matter whether militias are outlawed or not? Like you're at a point where it's already like what you're doing is illegal.
Okay,
So how
can
would that
I?
stop you?
Yeah. Okay, why does it matter? Okay, can I address this in my whatever? Because basically, I feel like I can answer these questions well. Okay, so Spectre, number one, basically saying like firearms were present at a protest, and then also violence was present at a protest. Therefore, firearms are the thing that escalated the protest. This is like failure. Hold on, dude. I've been waiting for a few minutes. Just let me go. This could be easily a correlative statement where basically like if there's already violence or arson or something like that, or if there has been violence for prolonged periods, then people are more likely to show up with guns because they've already basically said like, oh, this isn't a peaceful protest, I want to go protect my property, therefore I'm gonna show up with guns. And as a result, that escalates tension back and forth. Just saying that guns are present and violence is present is not sufficient to say that these things are like causative. All right, then earlier Nefarious was asking me like, are there non-revolutionary uses of militias? At least that's a question that I'm going to answer even if he didn't ask it. Yeah, absolutely. So, emergency disasters would be like a prime example of that. When you get together with your, with your friends, with your peers, with your community, you practice firearms management, you practice self-defense, you practice communication, you practice vehicle operations, then basically what you already have is you have a network that's capable of intervening in dangerous situations in order to help out other people. So, for instance, what would be Katrina, where the federal government and the local government broke down for 2 to 3 weeks, is a prime example in which a community militia would be a good thing to have. And then finally, why does it matter? The reason why it matters is because practice is incredibly important. Part of the reason why Doobie is able to meme on the fucking militias about being a whole bunch of like broken veterans who take like 800 milligrams of fucking aspirin every day and they haven't fucking like done cardio since like fucking 2006. I'm among these people, although I don't take aspirin. But like the reason why he's able to meme on that shit so hard is because it's true. But there are things that you need to practice, like basic firearm safety, like basic communication skills, like basic radio etiquette, like basic vehicle operations. These are all things that basically I don't just want to know for me. I want the general population to know. So yeah, and that would go into the well-regulated part.
I want to respond.
So actually, what you said plays exactly into my point, right? We brought up Katrina and the militias that were helping, quote unquote, there. We know that many of those militia members murdered people with impunity, right? Just shot them in the fucking street.
Citation fucking needed, bud. What are you talking about? There was literally you're saying militias were running around murdering people for fun?
Literally, yes.
Shits and giggles?
Not for fun. People that they thought were looters or were looked weird coming to their neighborhood, they shot them. Right, we have records of this, right? So why would you brought up like a fucking perfect example of why I don't want militias, why I don't want these people having access to
so it would actually be better for people who are in the middle of a grave natural disaster to be completely defenseless. Oh, okay, cool. It's actually better for the government. Hold on, because you said something really dumb.
Authority over an area.
Okay, so it would actually be better. It would actually be better during a natural disaster for people to be defenseless and at the whim of anybody else who wanted to commit violence against them. That's what I just fucking heard.
Okay, so the militias,
like the fucking 3%ers, the Boogaloo Boys, the Proud Boys, or any of that shit, like that's not going to fucking help, dude. And by the way, like if you want data that you can't say isn't correlative, like if we look at the percentage of armed demonstrations that turn violent, that's about 16%. Unarmed demonstrations that turn violent, 3%. So that's per capita. That's adjusting for your like going up and going down as far as which ones.
No. You
don't understand how data. Like, do I have to break?
You don't understand how correlation causation works.
I'll let Lorenzo respond because you also addressed him, and then we got to go to Mad Latin and Fanatic who've been waiting patiently.
So I'm not proposing completely outlawing militias. If you want to get together with your buddies and LARP and like practice like firing ranges, whatever. It's when you're organized and you're going to things like protests and stuff like that. I feel like that would be a little that's where it gets kind of yikesy. Also,
how do we define that?
So also, militias do what the government can't do, right? So that's usually what we see militias do. Like for example, in Hurricane Katrina, the National Guard wasn't doing enough, so militias had to step in and kind of like supply this demand for help. So my solution to this would just be like get the government to like be better, like have the National Guard of each state, like I guess more well trained, and
they have limited resources, right?
So do people.
Yeah, no shit. That's why I'm saying that like quintuple your resources by having a public-private partnership between between communities.
You have fucking randos who aren't like trained. Like these people have to
We
be held to
can
high regard.
change that.
That's why they need to be
you
well
hold-
regulated. That's why they need to be well
Literally.
regulated. Exactly. You're right.
Yeah,
So
we need
wait,
to
are you
train.
We don't want
for-
random
you're
not
right.
trained. We want well
Are
regulated
you
people
for-
so that it actually fits within the. With
How will you
with the
regulate these
framework.
militias? How do you
That we
regulate
already
these
we already
militias?
mean well
My
trained.
goodness.
But what is
regulate
well
all sorts of
trained? How do
things
you
with
how do you,
what?
how do you know whether someone's well trained or not?
Because
You
I'm
need,
a
like,
veteran, so I
I
know
don't
what
have it.
training
I
looks
don't-
like.
I don't have
do,
an.
but you need a central power to keep them
Right,
in
so
check. You need a
okay,
central
so it
No.
sounds
It
like I
defeats
got you.
the
So,
purpose.
so
What?
Lorenzo, it
Insane.
sounds
How
like
the fuck do
when
you-
you don't
how the fuck do you wanna regulate these guys?
you do not have to have a central power in order to keep them in check.
Okay, how do you want to
What can
regulate
do-
them?
what you can do is you can just come up with whatever standard you have for what well regulated is, and then those people just have to fit within those standards. We do this already when it
How
comes
do we
to
ensure that they fit within the standards,
we
Fanatic?
do that. Well, the government would enforce that, but we do this already when it comes to things like we do that already when it comes to things like education, right? Where we say here is a standard of what education is, so you can't just have some person in homeschool whose only education is going to be the Bible, right? Like we already have standards, and then people have to meet those standards. That's what we're talking about here.
I'm clearly not arguing against you because I completely agree. The government should these militias can exist if they're completely regulated by the government. But Counterpoints and Rob are arguing the opposite. These militias should not be regulated by the government
Okay,
because if the
so I have a
government's
quick-
tyrannical, then
just a quick
like,
question.
you have
I don't want to take a
tyranny
lot of
regulating
time.
things.
Just a quick question to Nefarious here,
So
real
very
quick.
quick, and we got Mad Lands been
yeah,
waiting,
yeah.
so it's got to be extremely quick.
You said you're okay with some militias, but just not the type that are showing up to these groups, and they need to be regulated so
No.
much. Who gets to make that decision for which type of militia is good and which type's
The
not?
government.
Right. So
Awesome.
the check on tyrannical governments of militia, only the government can decide what militia is allowed.
Yes, you're right.
Cool.
Because I
Yeah.
disagree with the fact that it's a check on the government. You're absolutely correct. That's the
All
argument that I
right.
was making.
That's
Okay, let's go to Mad Lands.
Oh.
Has been waiting quite patiently, please.
So like it's actually kind of astounding. I actually thought that the first time I got on a panel with Rob, I was gonna have like sharp disagreements. And I do have one really sharp disagreement about January 6th, and we'll have to talk about that later. But in terms of like militias being a check on the government, that's actually like the entire point. Like that's actually legit. Like historically speaking, militias did exist as or has been incepted, like the creation of the militia. The idea of a militia was to act as a check against a tyrannical government. Historically speaking, it hasn't quite been used directly in that sense. A lot of the times the militia actually were used to establish government tyranny. In fact, if you look at the Whiskey Rebellion of 1794, for example, George Washington marched the U.S. militia to rural Pennsylvania and put down a rebellion against taxing. So like, yeah, the militias had that intent, but they haven't actually worked that way throughout history. I agree with the point that militias do need to be well regulated because, as Spectre is saying, folks who are just LARPing as militias, showing up to these protests and these rallies, are causing a lot more trouble than they are worth. But that would mean that we would want to have more training for these militias so that when they are present, it's not awful. Now, should the government be the ones to decide whether they're well regulated? It's kind of a hard thing that we'd have to actually kind
Who
of
decides
navigate.
that?
There's this thing. Well,
Can y'all be
so it's funny.
specific?
No, well, it would be the communities that decide how well regulated enough. If a
I
community
do
thinks a
not
militia
trust the
isn't,
community.
does it? If a community thinks that a militia hasn't prepared enough, they probably don't want or won't accept the help of the
Yeah,
militia.
but how's the
right?
community
Okay, but then
gonna
no,
enforce
because
that?
then there's no way for me to keep.
What do you
there's no
mean?
way
How
for
do they
me-
enforce that?
There's no way
How
for
does
me
it
and my
be-
community to
They'd
be
have
like,
to
hey,
have
I
their own
don't know.
militia.
Let me fucking talk, dude. There's no way for me and my community to be like, hey, I don't want the Proud Boys coming in here and fucking with my peaceful protest. The only way for me to do that is to go and like, I guess, join Antifa and do violence against them first, right? Like, how am I supposed to keep them out?
The
They
only
have
way to
freedom of
fight
speech,
guns
freedom
is
of
with
assembly.
military.
No,
Or-
but no
or
one's
even-
arguing,
or
no
even
one's arguing
worse,
that you
like, God-
should be able to
God
have the
forbid-
Proud Boys
God
not be
forbid.
at your protest. Like that's not the way things work. If we have freedom of speech here, if the Proud Boys want to assemble at a protest, they're absolutely allowed to do so. I don't think
Peacefully.
And I don't get to decide which militia comes into my community. Great, thank you.
I don't know. I don't know who's
Freedom
dying
of
on that hill.
movement. What the
Really-
fuck? Like,
Right, I
what
don't
are
know
you
who's
talking
dying on that.
about?
This is the thing that
I
we
don't.
can do.
I don't know how that's a win because I don't know anybody who would die on such a stupid hill. Clearly, like everyone has the freedom of movement. That's part of like our that's part of our
But-
right to assemble.
Hey, do you prefer
That's right.
violent protests or non-violent protests, Fanatic?
So if we get into preference, yeah, I probably would prefer nonviolent protests for the most part. However, as you already know, when it comes to specific black when it comes to black civil rights issues, it seems like violent protests tend to be significantly more effective. So while I prefer nonviolence as part of my ideology and my religion and part of what my moral compass is made up of, I understand that not everybody lives by my moral compass. So I understand why several people would decide to act violently blatantly, especially when it seems like the government is entirely inept
First of
at
all,
handling whatever the situations are.
few
Specifically
things
when
here.
it comes to things like government entities like the police. I can totally understand if you know the history of police and their contingency with with black people, then it makes all the sense in the world why some people would want to get violent. So in those cases, it's not about my individual preferences.
So what I'm saying is when these militias show up at BLM protests, which is mostly what they've been showing up at, that's what most of these armed actions are, is a response to BLM protests from like 2020 to 2021, as far as we can tell. They are 16% of the time turning violent if there are guns there. That's only 3% of the time.
Then it's 84% peaceful.
So the unarmed
Spectre, what's your
protesters
problem?
are being provoked. What?
It's 84% peaceful. It's mostly peaceful armed militias. Okay.
Well, actually, it's 94% peaceful, but it's only 84% when there's guns there. So fuck that. Get the guns out.
Okay, what I'm memeing on is you're not tracking is the 93% peaceful fucking protest for BLM. So I guess because 7% of fucking protests turn violent for fucking BLM, we should ban protesting. This is like the logical implication of what you're saying.
Because that's what makes the protest violent.
Okay, ban guns. Okay, so ban guns. Ban guns.
We should ban militias like the Boogaloo Boys and the Proud Boys from showing up.
Okay,
first off,
16%
so real
doesn't
quick,
show that.
Yeah, real quick. There's still a problem with
16%
correlation
versus
and causation.
3%? So 16% when there's guns there, 3% when there's not guns there. That's not a correlation to you.
No, it's a correlation, but it's not causal.
How do you know it's causation? If you'll let me respond, I'll be able to. So, for example, first off, the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys, how are they a militia? What exactly defines them as a militia?
I believe that they define themselves as a militia. And then
I've never heard that.
3%ers, you got the
Boogaloo Boys, probably.
Hold on. Do these groups only become militias when they pick up rifles? Like, what makes them
you
militia?
Tell me.
Militia
I'm not the one saying that they don't have the right to assemble at certain events. So if you're going to say we need to keep them out, give me the definition of how you come to that decision.
I would declare them a far right paramilitary group, and I would say that they're not allowed at peaceful protests with what
makes them paramilitary. Most Proud Boys I've seen at rallies don't have AR-15s or guns. But why are they paramilitary?
But who even cares? How can you say that we're literally going to take a block of people because they're a part of an organization and ban them from assembling if they're doing so peaceably? If they violate a crime, you can arrest them. But you can't ban them from assembling in a group that represents a certain political interest, no matter how nefarious. This would even apply to neo-Nazis. If neo-Nazis showed up with guns, but then they didn't fucking hurt or kill anybody and they just stood there, then under the United States Constitution, they have the right to do so, and the only time that you can interfere with those rights is when they start violating the law. This is like foundational Republican shit.
Now, if I can finish my point, please.
I'm curious to just, and you can finish your point. I'll let you finish your point. But I'm curious to the panel in general. Maybe Rob can answer this too. Are the Bloods and the Crips, are they militia?
If they don't commit crimes,
your different definitions.
I would say they're not a militia. No.
Why not?
Because they're actively engaging in criminal activity.
They do not exist for the expressive purpose of training for things that a militia does. Right? So they're not training for things like, possibly defending themselves from tyrannical governments, from providing first aid for people and things like that. No, they do. The Bloods and the Crips are
they also participate in drug trafficking and fucking human trafficking. Like, what are we talking about here?
No. Well, I mean, for some of them, and I won't harp on this point. I'm not going to make this like a big thing. But for a lot of these groups, especially when they formed, right? It was for self-defense against the police, coming in their neighborhoods because they couldn't trust them because systematic racism. But we won't have that conversation now. But that's the thing that they did. Now, what exactly they do now, maybe not so much. But I don't know. I think that's part of it anyway. Is to say that the police victimize us, and so I'm going to take back my power, and also drugs. So
all right. So anyways, to finish my point real quick, first, just to speak to that, sure, the Bloods and the Crips, if they haven't committed crimes, they have I don't think that if you identify as a Blood, that means that you shouldn't be allowed to go to a rally, right? But clearly that's something different than what we consider militia, at least the way they operate now. But all I want to point out is when I ask how people define a militia, because there are people here saying we don't want militias of this type to show up to these groups. They can't give a definition. They can't give a definition. We'll give you a chance in a second. I already asked. We'll give you a chance. But for example, we heard Proud Boys, right? The point is, and you hear people like Nefarious say, well, the government should make that decision. So what we have now is a government that we have a militia that stands as a check on tyranny from them, that now gets to decide who's allowed to freely assemble and who's allowed to have the right to have the Second Amendment and things like that, and how they will arbitrarily make that. And the proof is that we have people like Spectre and Nefarious going, yeah, like the Proud Boys. They shouldn't be allowed to be there. The reality is, the people that are making this argument, let's be quite fucking clear. We have all this, real quick, I'm going to make the correlation causation. Yeah, probably when the Proud Boys and other groups are showing up, there's more likely to be violence because the vast majority of Black Lives Matter rallies occurred in little towns like I live in Clarion, Pennsylvania, where there was no disagreement or anything. But when you have bigger rallies, such as those in D.C., Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, etc., the ones that engage in violence, yes, you're going to attract people on the other side that want to have violence, and those people are all more likely to be armed on both sides. Which is explain correlation causation. And the last thing I'll say is that what you see is Kyle Rittenhouse proved the exact reason why you want a well-regulated militia and why we need to have people defend themselves, because so many of these people on the left defended the violence that was occurring in these riots and things like that. And not just the people on these panels, actually prominent politicians, media members, etc. And they said that they didn't want the National Guard or the police there. Well, then that's the perfect example of why a militia needs to exist, but not necessarily just fighting the government. Militias can exist to protect their own communities because so many people, including, I'm guessing, people on this panel, were perfectly fine with the violence being enacted on those communities.
And you know what?
So the people were forced to come together and arm themselves.
Rob actually just made my point for me. Hold on, actually, I'm sorry, Spectre, hold on. I'm going to cut in here because Rob just made my point. This is exactly what I wanted to get at, actually. Yes, you can form a militia to protect your own interests against other aspects of the American population. Absolutely. But those other aspects of the American population are going to form their own militias to counter the initial militias. That's where I'm going. And you're going to have, if this continues, you're going to have left-wing militias challenging right-wing militias directly.
But this isn't happening. This isn't happening.
It hasn't happened yet. No. That's very different.
77% of the people who show up armed to these protests are on the right, not the left. Like this idea that Antifa is showing guns all over the place. It's fucking ridiculous. And by the way, so I think that it was perfectly justified for Kyle to defend himself against somebody who was pointing a gun at him. That being said, he did not defend any property while he was there. He defended his life. So don't act like he's like fucking defending.
Why was he there?
The stuff
why did he show up?
So Spectre, here's where we run into the problem, right? Because we see different militia groups go with different intentions. Like there are white accelerationists who are like in militia that are going there to escalate, to make those things happening, right? But you can't then use that to color all militias, right? So you have like the NFAC. I don't remember any violence tied to any of the things that they were doing. Right? They were showing up specifically in response to people who are, in some cases, protesters who were being threatened by different entities in the government, and they were like, okay, no, we're going to show up and we're going to make sure that nothing untoward happened. I remember there was one of the Congress members who they started escorting, said they can go to work during the very beginning of the lockdown, specifically because that woman was being threatened by different militia groups, right? So it depends on what the intentions are of that.
No, I agree.
It's really insane to just write off the entire thing.
But here's the thing: is that we can know what the intentions are because Rob, didn't we find out that the FBI had actually infiltrated most of these far right paramilitary groups before January 6th?
Well, that's a good question. The FBI claims that there wasn't a plot that was discovered before, but I think what we're going to find out is actually, yes, the FBI was involved in some of these groups and
they
probably knew what was going on.
Which ones are starting violence at protests too, yeah?
Right, like Antifa, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I agree. They know they just selectively enforce.
Yeah,
right. They selectively
choose. Are they in Black Lives Matter? Is that who stormed the Capitol?
So you're who stormed the White House on May 30th, 31st, 2020? Who stormed it? Was it the Proud Boys?
No one stormed.
No, you don't know about that incident. You don't know. You don't know when they called Trump a bunker bitch because people burned down a guard station.
He went to a bunker, but nobody stormed the White House.
Nobody stormed the White House.
They attempted to.
Oh my God! Can we not do the kid thing? I'm bad, but what are you? Can we not do that shit? Can we just admit that motherfuckers can be violent on either side? Holy shit!
The only point that I was making is that Rob has acknowledged that the FBI has already infiltrated these far right paramilitary groups, so we know which ones are violent. We can label them as such. Keep them the fuck out of protest. That's all.
Wait.
Do you think that's fanatic?
Stop.
Do you think that it's possible?
No, we got it. Hold on. We will let you answer the question. Yeah. So let's go to counterpoints and then Nefarious.
Dude, Spectre. Do you think that United States citizens, based off of affiliation with political groups, regardless of whether or not they're violent, should be legally barred from assembling in the general public for the sake of political protest? And if so, are you
with
okay?
The firearm, yes.
Hold on, okay. And if so, let's say, with a firearm, yes, then that's up to the municipalities who govern these regions. But, okay, number one. And then number two, are you comfortable saying this about, like, gang organizations, for instance? So, for instance, if the Bloods or the Crips wanted to come together for a fucking, hey, the Bloods are the fucking best gang that's ever existed, and the only people who have firearms are Bloods who don't have felonies, and the only people who don't have firearms are people who have, like, fucking criminal convictions, and they have the right to assemble and basically say, hey, we're the best organization ever. Drink our fucking lemonade or some shit. It's a fucking grill out. You want the government to be able to legislate whether or not they're able to assemble in public?
Wait, hold on.
They
We already
basically
have that
already
right
do.
now. Right? Yeah. Like if you're already part of like specific organizations, like or if you're like convicted with certain felonies and things, the government already has a jurisdiction to be able to tell you you're not allowed to assemble politically. That's what happens when it comes to certain people. You lose some of your rights. If you're
treat the
convicted
Proud
for certain
Boys like
things.
the Bloods.
Hey,
That's the thing.
Fanatic,
For
can I ask you a question real quick?
non-criminals.
Do you see?
You'll
do you
get
see
to
a
it, you'll get
chance
to it.
for the NFAC?
No. We got to move on. Don't worry.
Okay.
I promise you, Bobby. We'll get back to you. Go ahead. Nefarious, Mad Latin, and Doobie too.
So this idea that the government can't regulate any of its checks and balances and stuff like that comes from a position which I believe is just like an apparent lack of knowledge in like political science. The government does actively regulate all of its checks and balances, right? We look at like the three branches of government. The Supreme Court will like regulate like the Constitution and stuff like that, and will keep the judicial branch and stuff like that in check. So just because the militias are designed to be like a way of regulating government and a check and balance for government doesn't mean that the government can't regulate them.
But you're talking about the right of them to
The
peaceably
government doesn't regulate things
assemble.
all the time.
That's
Look
like the
at crony
first fucking
capitalism.
thing.
Look at the state of crony capitalism right now, right? I love capitalism; it's the best system in the world. But crony capitalism is absolutely problematic, and the only people who are like in the position to regulate, to prevent some of the nonsense from happening, are Congress themselves. But they are the problem. They are the ones being picked by the lobbyists. So then, at this point, like, sure, maybe the government can regulate itself, but we see Congress has the ability to like create raises for itself, to regulate how many holidays it gets, and things like that. And I don't see anything in what branch of the government has any right to stop them from that. It seems like that's something that's unchecked, right?
So and listen, to make Fanatic's point even more, right? Like, Fanatic, can you see a situation
where we would... Let Nefarious respond. I don't need you to make...
Thanks for moderating, Fanatic. Can you see the point?
I'm going to ignore you.
This is anti-white racism. Stop it, Fanatic.
After he responds, then you can say whatever question you've been begging to ask.
Well, I don't have a question for you. Okay, good. Anyway, sorry for giving you benefit of the doubt. Perpetual victim Fanatic also being the moderator here.
I am particularly articulate.
Okay.
I said what I had to say. I said it well. I don't need you to clarify. You can't speak for me.
Not speaking Fanatic. It's someone else's turn to speak.
Okay. We got it. Loud noises accomplished. Nefarious, respond, and then respond. Mad Latin, Doobie, Problematic Pan, and then Rob Noor.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you want to have a discussion on lobbying, that's a completely separate issue, and I disagree with what you just said. But like, I don't want to get into that debate now because it's really long. We can definitely talk about it after, though, Fanatic, if you're willing to do that.
Okay, let's go to Matt Ladd.
All right, so back to the whole like whether we can decide whether folks can meet up or not. So there are laws in the United States against treason, sedition, and rebellion, right? So if like there's a militia that's acting like, in a way that might be rebellious in nature, like, I'm just going to read the specific wording. Let's see, conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or levy war against them, or oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law in the United States, or by force seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, things happen, right? So, like, if a militia is acting in a way that is specifically against the interests of American authority, then, yeah, the government already has a privilege to remove these militias and do whatever it is that they're entitled to do. In terms of whether we should have militias participating in protests and all this other stuff. Like Spectre raises a very good point. You've got these individuals showing up to defend property, but then end up having to shoot in self-defense because, you know, folks are coming at them instead of the property. Fine, whatever. Like, I don't know how you want to justify like what actually happened there in Kenosha, but like, I mean, either
it was
way,
self-defense. It was totally justified. Like,
but the fact of the matter is, if he wasn't there as a target, then I mean, and there's like, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because then we get into like all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, but there are
like,
no laws in place at the time. I'm saying that we should have laws in place to prevent outside actors from coming in with guns. That's
right, right, and like, so I agree with that. And then, but I also agree with if we can't get those laws on the books, and if we can't find a way of preventing these sorts of militias from coming out in force, then I do think that a left-wing militia is justified. And I would love to see how that would work. Like, I actually am all about it.
Let's go to Doobie Problematic Pan, Rob.
So this is depressing. So I think just using Connor's like natural disaster, right? Example again, right? So you're telling me that you guys here on this panel, Fanatic, I'm going to use you. You'd be okay with the Proud Boys, you know, getting together with rifles and showing up in your community to quote unquote, you know, keep the peace. Or Connor, you'd be okay with the fucking Antifa anarchist goblins showing up in your community, right? To keep the peace and you know, assert their dominance over whatever.
Yeah, can I answer this directly?
Like I think yes.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think that a lot of political organizations that are libertarian or anarchist in particular actually share a lot of value sets, and they're confused about who their opponents are. So when it comes to like libertarians or anarchists or NFAC or anything like that, you would actually find like a pretty extreme common thread, which would be like liberty, independence of government, skepticism of authority, all that kind of stuff. And if anything, what I would want to do, I'm not kidding about this, is if I ever do have enough of a platform or money to do it, I would like to assemble a small range day between like all of these different groups. That way we could go over gun safety, talk to each other about politics, grill out, actually get to know each other, all that kind of shit. And not only that, I think it would be good to do it on a community level, basically like based off of the city that you're in. That way, not only do you understand that you don't have to kill the rival militias in your territory, but maybe you can coordinate for mutual aid in the event of a natural disaster. Maybe you can coordinate with people who are fucking political enemies, but can come together for the good of the community. So, for instance, Spectre and I have talked about this in the past. He's living in Texas now. He's a filthy fucking leftist, and I should hate him, but I don't because he's a beautiful soul. And basically, when time comes and I have a little bit of extra scratch, we're gonna get together and we're gonna do some mutual aid shit because, frankly, that's the kind of example that we need to set in this space. So, yeah, I do think it's good to assemble these militias. Yes, I do think it's good to train, and yes, I do think that there's a real opportunity to do some community building. So yeah, Antifa might be a bunch of gross fucking basement dwelling gremlins, but I'll teach them how to fucking shoot and I'll incorporate them into my mutual aid community development project. 100%.
Okay, so when you've done this, right, and then the next Jacob Blake happens, right, and you guys have a disagreement, right, a genuine disagreement about something that's happened, and they think this is an example of white supremacy and the government being tyrannical, and yada yada yada. So they show up in a community to burn shit down with these rifles you've taught them to use, and you show up in the same town with the rifles to protect the town. We're supposed to be okay with the tension here and expect that people aren't going to be shot in the street.
Hopefully, based off of prior, hold on, based off of prior community engagement, I hope we would be able to get past that. But then, do you know the meme of like the crying boy with the gun who's like he's super sad that he looks like he has to like shoot something?
Yeah, I got it.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Good joke.
All right. Yeah, then it'll be one of those, and it just is what it is.
Listen, to answer the question you asked me earlier, I have literally no problem with the Proud Boys assembling in my neighborhood or any other neighborhood. I believe in I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe in the right to assemble. So sure, they can show up and do whatever the freak that they want. They can.
No, I think you misheard.
I would never stop that.
You understand that usually what they do is the hell out of BLM protesters, right?
So that to be finished, then we'll go to Pan. He's been waiting so long. Then Noor, and then we'll go to you, Spectre, as well. And then Nefarious and Mad Lad, yeah.
Yeah, so Fnatic, I think you misheard me. So I was pointing to Connor's example of like Katrina and militia showing up there, and I mentioned that some of those militia members murdered people after Katrina. So what I said is if there were a natural disaster at like a Katrina level in your neighborhood, right, where the police weren't able to show up to help, would you be okay with a group like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers or any of these like far right groups showing up with rifles and keeping the peace or trying to like assert their dominance in your community and their authority in your community?
Well, so I wouldn't be necessarily okay with them showing up, but it depends on. I would be okay with different militia groups that are like depending on what their goal is, what their stated purpose is, right? Like obviously, if like the justice of the peace isn't like going to be the ones there I'm supposed to be having. I don't know. Whatever their stated goals are, then that's what's going to like determine whether or not I'm okay with them being there in those situations. I do think clearly like different groups have different purposes, and if they're just showing up randomly and murdering people and doing all sorts of nonsense, and that's not their actual like forte, then yeah, I don't want them there. Like, but I don't. That's not an argument against militias in general. It's just an argument against that specific one. What?
Oh, go ahead, Pan.
We literally agree.
Well, I don't think we do agree because what Fnatic, or at least not, I'm not going to speak for Fnatic. What I'm saying is, yeah, if these groups want to come in and help us recover from a natural disaster, I'm definitely going to be okay with that, right? Like, yes,
even if they're nefarious.
I don't. What do you mean? What if they're
coming in? Even if they're nefarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, if the reason they're coming in is because there's a natural disaster and they want to be of assistance to the people in that community, I have no problem with that. Because if this is about helping. I mean that. Let's use Antifa then. All right, let's use Antifa. Let's use some really anti-white group. Okay, if the group's anti-white enough, they're not going to come help me after a natural disaster. If they hate me, I don't see why they would come to help me after a natural disaster. So, like, I'm going to assume that if anyone's willing to, go into a territory where there's been a natural disaster and willing to help the occupants there, they probably don't hate the occupants. Maybe that's naive of me, but I don't see why anyone would do that.
Sure, but problematic Pan, have you seen any examples in which people have stated that they're there to help, but in reality what they've done is harm? Is that a possibility?
I mean, sure, of course it's a possibility.
Sorry, Pan, the community needs your furniture, Pan. We just got to get it and take it and give it to everybody because everybody has a need right now. That's what I'd do if I had a crazy ass militia. I'd show up in your community. It's like, hey, sorry, yeah, times are tough. We're going to take your shit. Like,
wait, but do you understand that typically law is restored? What the fuck are we talking about? Like the government doesn't break down in perpetuity. What the fuck are we talking about?
No, we're talking about Katrina. Like, this literally happened.
It doesn't matter if it's in perpetuity. It doesn't matter if it's in perpetuity. It matters if even in that instance, just while the militia is there, during the height of wherever the problem is, if there's all sorts of nonsense and nefarious actors carrying out God knows what, then it's problematic, right?
Yeah, and
I didn't hear his response. Right, Connor?
It's a combination of evils. You have to pick the lesser of the evils. Like, what the fuck?
Do you think it's a lesser evil to have nefarious actors showing up with like insane biases, overt biases, like wreaking additional havoc on people in the middle of a freaking crisis?
May I respond?
Yes, that's bad. Like, what the fuck are you asking?
Is that bad? Do you think it's the lesser of two evils? Because I would rather.
Depends. If the option is starving or not getting water and people not being able to communicate and other people getting murdered, then yeah, it's the lesser of two evils. Yeah.
Or if you're a black man, you get shot for walking down the road.
Form a black militia, you fucking pussy! Holy shit!
If these people have nefarious enough intentions in those situations, then the idea becomes that yes, like, I'm sorry, they're not doing any good. They're not bringing water, or they're only bringing water to white citizens. Like, let's say we have some incredibly bad actors who I said had overt biases, who decided, yes, in the height of Katrina, we're just going to tax niggas and make sure that we like protect white people because they're incredibly biased.
Those would be crimes and they would still be prosecuted. What the fuck are we talking about?
I think we've heard Fnatic ramble on long enough, man.
Of course, you said justice would be.
Oh, you said of course 4 times. Great. I'll just start interrupting.
I want to finish this.
I can do that. I can start.
Shut up, everyone. I want Fnatic to finish this, and then want to go to Rob Noor, Nefarious, and
Nefarious. Please, Fnatic, you bring so much wisdom.
Don't need to raise your hands, and then Matt Latin. Yeah, don't worry, I got you all.
Thank you. Now, kindly shut the hell up while I finish my statement. while of course I understand that eventually justice will be restored, but what I made, the statement that I made earlier was that in the interim, like while at the height of the thing, before justice is restored, when the resources are like divvied to other things and we don't have any control over the situation, they would be wreaking havoc on those citizens during that time. Can you understand why that would be so insanely problematic?
Yes, and I would have a solution, which would basically be like the community-based coordination, building community bonds, alternative militias, like all of that shit. So I'm kind of missing the broader point.
We're supposed to erect that in the middle of a crazy.
No, you're supposed to do it now. You're supposed to do it now before a crisis occurs.
Good point, Fanatic. Keep going, Fanatic. Good point.
Right now, I will shut the hell up. I will shut the hell up.
I'll translate. I'm black. I'm a victim. Go ahead.
Right now,
my God.
Right now, right? You're saying, yes, that's something we should do right now. But we can obviously say in most populations right now, we don't actually have those things in place. So in the cases like Hurricane Katrina, which already happened, we saw that they didn't have those things and they couldn't assemble those things. They're literally fighting for survival. So then there's this idea that these things would just automatically fix themselves or that your solution would be applicable in real time in the middle of some nefarious actors is unrealistic, right?
Yeah, that would be a good counterpoint if I said any of that shit, but I didn't say any of that. No, I didn't. I said, let's start now. What the fuck are you talking about, bud?
Okay, all right. Let's go to Rob. I think I skipped Spectre, so Spectre, then Nefarious, and Matt Lang.
Oh, wow. I was really enjoying Fanatic basically say fucking nothing over and over again, but hey, that's what he's like on panel, so we get a good dose of it. So to answer Fanatic's point succinctly, yes, if people show up and they commit crimes, then yes, we should punish them for committing those crimes. The problem is, how do you determine who's allowed to assemble and who's not allowed to assemble? For example, Gage Grosskreutz from the ACLU and Rosenbaum, etc. Well, we saw Kenosha lit on fire for 2 days previous to when we saw people show up like Rittenhouse. So should they have been told, you can't come here? We can't have Black Lives Matter here because they've committed fires and hurt this community for the past 3 days? Anyone, a show of hands that third day that Rittenhouse showed up, a show of hands that says that Black Lives Matter shouldn't have been allowed to be there that day.
If they were actually burning stuff down and destroying property, they should have been sent home. Absolutely.
The whole organization, correct?
Wait, are you
organization? They were violating a curfew, to be clear. So yeah, they shouldn't have been there.
It was completely illegal. Those rioters shouldn't have been there. 100%.
Sure, Black Lives Matter shouldn't have been there. Great God. So we're good there. So yes, if people are violating specific crimes, they should be removed. Totally agree. Now, Madland's definition of when we have laws, when the U.S. government can come in, talks about groups that want to usurp and damage the property of the United States, the ideology, or the sort of mechanisms and ideology of the United States. We've seen many examples of that. For example, we've seen police precincts, which is a government building, burnt down. So therefore, those would be terrorist groups by definition that the U.S. military, according to the definition Mad Lad provided, should have been gone in and treated them like terrorists. In addition, we saw Antifa take over in Seattle, take over 6 city. Please, I gave everyone a long block to talk. We saw them take over 6 city blocks in Seattle. You spoke over me the entire
time. Shut up. Don't
ever we let you go, you fucking whiny bitch. I let you go, you whiny bitch.
Shut up. Don't ever get indignant about it after you've been this rude on this panel.
Okay. Got it.
Now,
Rob,
may I continue? Yes,
please.
So we saw them take over actual 6 city blocks, and we saw that the local municipality said, it's the summer of love, no problem. Then they actually murdered a young African-American boy. That's what happened to the Chaz Zone. When the FBI was asked about that, they said, Antifa, what's that? It's just an idea. So we can see how this would be falsely applied. The question I was trying to ask Fanatic, but I have no interest in hearing him answer because he just turned it into, I'm black, I'm a victim, and screaming or something, was this. Can we see a situation where we would have left-wing groups that the FBI could infiltrate and say, oh, they've engaged in poor behavior, therefore they're no longer allowed to assemble? Yes, we could, because we saw that happen with the Vietnam War, and we saw it happen with groups like Happy Hoffman and the people he had previously. So the idea that we could say, well, the FBI can infiltrate groups and they'll decide which groups are good or bad. Sure. And it's not beyond the FBI to put informants there to encourage bad behavior or to just false flag-based bad behavior to then say, okay, this group doesn't have the right to exist. The last thing is I love the idea of saying like, well, we're against the Proud Boys, etc., because we wouldn't want the Proud Boys. Then we might have to cheer for Antifa showing up. The Proud Boys exist as a response to Antifa. What happened was we saw left-wing violence occur over and over again, right? And then people said, we're fed up with this. Now, I'm not saying everyone who behaves in these militias are good people. I'm not saying that. But they felt the reason there is public perception that they are necessary is because there has been so much left-wing violence that people in positions of power on the left, including police chiefs, mayors, etc., have endorsed or ignored that people felt the need to defend their own property. I talked about Rittenhouse. Someone said he didn't defend property, he defended himself. Well, the reason he was there was to defend the property. And we see this occur over and over. We keep talking about at Katrina, there were bad actors. Those actors should have been punished. That's not a reason to say that militias shouldn't be able to exist. And the problem is, why are we selective in saying when this can occur? Because we saw riots. For example, we knew in Minneapolis, night 3 after George Floyd, there were going to be riots. So should they have said that any group that seeks to have a peaceful protest isn't allowed to be there because we think there are outside nefarious actors within their group? No, that would have been outrageous. Those outraged over the death of George Floyd absolutely had the right to peacefully protest. To say that they would be dissuaded. The last thing I'll say real quick is they can't define what a militia is. They seem to say firearms are necessary for a militia. Many Black Lives Matter and Antifa people were armed as well. For example, the person that shot David Dorn. There were other people like Gabe Grosskreutz who actually did have an illegal firearm that was there for Black Lives Matter. The point is, there's an arbitrary distinction saying we don't want the Proud Boys there, who's not a militia group. We don't want these other groups there. But that if we gave the government the power to tell them they can't be there, they wouldn't misuse it and say Black Lives Matter couldn't be. They would never do that. That's naive.
That's not true.
The government will go against any group that they feel is a legitimate threat to their public perception.
That's not
right. So I managed to write all that down.
Spectre, Nefarious, Mad Latin, and Doobie, and then.
All right. So now that you're done gish galloping, Rob, I managed to get all of that down. So first of all, you're right. The left does show up armed with these things. About 13% of the people that are armed are on the left. Rest are on the right. So you know what? Make all the ones that are causing trouble go home. I'm cool with that. Still hits the side that is causing the issue more home. Again, 84% of the action that has been taken by these militias that are mostly right-wing has been showing up to BLM protest against them for the past 2 years. They make the protest more violent as a result. If you can show me an Antifa cell that is having this effect on protest as well, I am more than happy with you telling them that they are not allowed to, fucking gather there. That's fine.
You have not demonstrated that they're more violent. They make it more violent.
Yes.
You have not demonstrated that they make it more violent. You had this.
I think that 13% disparate in outcomes.
Okay, but you do realize that just because there was more people with guns that went to violent rallies, that could because when rallies are more violent, there's going to be more people who show up with guns as
How
a countermeasure,
do you have a
right?
predictability for when a riot is going to be more violent?
Because
you don't have a predictability. You see it. It's happening there.
This is kind of the response.
So no. Look. So they literally test for 16%, per capita, basically, of the violent ones, of the ones where people show up with guns, rather, turn violent. 3% of the ones where people don't show up with any guns are the ones that turn violent. So it's 97% versus 84% being peaceful, right?
How do they know who had guns? What if they were concealed?
What?
For example, let me just give you a quick example. Let's say that there's a Black Lives Matter rally in my town. There is no violence whatsoever, but it turns out 80% of the people there had concealed weapons. They just didn't feel the need to bring them out because there was no violence.
Do you think that it's probably the fact that they're brandishing the weapons and threatening people with them and yelling obscenities at them that makes these things more likely to become violent sometimes? So yeah, I guess if you conceal them,
you're adding qualifiers.
Well, I mean, if you have evidence of Proud Boys brandishing their weapons at people and insulting them while they do that, let's get them off the street. That is fine.
The disparate outcome
so
from the data.
Look,
I'm not going to go and
the data doesn't show that. You need to understand.
And I can find you videos of Proud Boys doing violent shit at protests. That is not difficult. I'm not going to go and.
That's not what I asked for. I asked for evidence of what you claimed that they were brandishing weapons and then threatening, people with them. That's what I need evidence for. And also, yes, if you can know beforehand, hey, things at this rally are likely to get pretty hairy tonight. I'm going to bring a firearm. That's not more likely. There's no way to know.
There's no way to predict which 6% of the protests are going to be the violent ones. I'm sorry. This is an absurd claim. Actually, there is a way. There is a way to predict if a protest is more likely to get violent. You want to know what it is? If you fucking bring a gun to it.
Okay,
no, hold on. So
there was no way to see on day 3 of Kenosha that it was going to be a relatively violent protest.
On behalf of Nefarious,
we got it. We got to go. We're gonna go to Nefarious, Mad Latin, Doobie, Pan, and I'm guessing Counterpoint's supposed to jump in there at some point.
Okay, so I've an interrupt and I've just written everything down. So try your best not to interrupt me while I like
That's
build
not going
these
to work.
points.
But go ahead.
So
Trust me.
I'm really against violence. I think violence is really stupid most of the time. And that's why I don't like the Black Bloc, for example, not the whole of Antifa, but definitely like the violent parts of Antifa. And that's also why I don't really like militias. It does seem like they produce cyclical violence. Second of all, you can't really ban BLM the movement. I guess if you want to ban BLM the organization from those riots, but like everyone was banned, right? Because it was a curfew, so it was like illegal for anyone to be there. Third of all, this might just be because I'm a European cuck, but like Americans have like a really really weird fascination with doing everything just themselves instead of like using the government to help them. All of these problems, like the Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that, all come from like a lack of government intervention. The government was just shitty and couldn't help that much. That's why militias had to step in. So surely the response here wouldn't be for more militias, but it would be for like more government actions and improving the government. Fourth of all, I'm pro mutual aid completely. I like communities standing up for themselves and like helping each other and stuff like that. But I'm not really pro militia, and it kind of just sounds like you're defining militias as like people like who just get together and just happen to have guns, because that's kind of like, and if that's your definition for a militia, then yeah, I wouldn't ban them. I don't think you could ban them. I don't think you can ban people just getting together and also just having firearms. But like militias for me are kind of like organizations with the sole purpose of using violence and stuff like that to curb, imagine like tyrannical government activity or whatever. But like, if you're using a
What
different
country are you
definition,
from?
I'll concede
What country are you from?
Portugal. I live in Portugal.
Okay, gotcha.
So to clarify, if I
Yes.
can, just my position here, I'm perfectly fine with militias. It's just I think that they should be regulated, and the ones that are demonstrated to get out of hand should be told to go the fuck home.
When you say regulated, do you mean like legally regulated, or do you mean trained? What do you mean?
I mean, I guess if we want to train them and then kick out the people that are like you know what the Proud Boys do for training right now, for example, right? Like with the beating the shit out of each other in a circle, like.
Yeah.
It's not a militia.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to Matt Latin, DB, Pan,
absurd.
and then Counterpoints, I think, wants to say something.
It's so absurd to say that like the Proud Boys aren't a militia when we're loosely so you're like loosely defining what a militia is when it suits your purposes, Rob, and then you're just finding it very
BLM a
strictly.
militia?
The fact is,
movement.
Are they
travel
organization?
15% of the people that show up armed.
I mean, like,
They do.
right.
BLM
So okay, so if BLM is a militia, then Proud Boys aren't. Like, I have no idea what the hell, like, what
Define
you're doing
militia.
here. A militia is an organized group of folks with weapons that do things with those weapons. We'll say. Well, I'll give it very loose, like very straightforward. Like that's probably what a militia is, right? Like people who use their weapons for a specific purpose, whether that is for training or for guarding things, etc., etc.
Does it have to be guns?
I mean, unless we're living in the medieval era.
No,
Like,
why
we
not? What if
live
I
in
make
the-
bombs? What if a bunch of people are armed with bombs?
Okay,
and
whoa.
Molotov
Okay,
cocktails?
so Molotov cocktails and bombs are not weapons that you would find in a militia. Bombs and Molotov cocktails are weapons you would find in, say, terror cells, right? Like, it's quite different. Like, very different.
Why?
You can't
If
train
you
people.
train to make them,
Oh, really?
it seems to be arbitrary. If the argument is training with
I
weapons,
mean,
and then
okay.
using them.
So, like, I mean, if we want to be, I mean, I guess weapons might be a little too broad. I can tighten the definition and say weapons that can be used to guard and defend, like, property or something along those lines. I guess I would say.
So just real quick then.
like, yeah.
So just
sure.
real quick, if so the Black Lives Matter organization as a whole, it's very loose and stuff like that. But let's say six friends get together and they say we are all marching for the cause of Black Lives Matter, and we all have handguns. We're going out to train to use those handguns in case horrible cops or horrible white supremacists attack us. Are they a militia?
I would say that group of six very specifically are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
You probably need more people to be. I don't think I'd be comfortable.
Well,
with
guys,
saying, like,
guys,
six
can
people
I
as a
just
militia.
can I just hit you?
Hold on,
Hold on, really quick.
I don't get derailed. Fuck that.
Okay.
I don't get derailed. All right. Well, okay. Counterpoints, real quick. You wanted to say something about this, actually.
No, good luck with that.
Oh, I was just going to say the federal definition for militia. There's the regulated militia and the unregulated militia. The regulated militia is actually the National Guard. The unregulated militia is males between the ages of 1745 and females who are enlisted in the National Guard. That's all I wanted to offer.
Females are unregulated? Okay, all right.
Females are not part of the militia unless they're part of the National Guard.
Wow, that's
so I would
we have
like
some weird
yeah.
laws. So I mean, I guess
training up like that civilian populace to actually act as a supporting actor to the National Guard. By the way, Connor, I think that'd be a good way to get people like out of the more extreme militias. So there you go.
Right, and I'm like all about that. So I'm all about that. Like I think that we should have more regulation in terms of the militias, and it doesn't have to be even like just government saying, "Hey, this is allowed and this is not allowed." It should be training. That being said, I see a future where we don't take these steps, and I see these militias getting more and more out of hand over the next decade, and I see a future where there's going to be all sorts of militia groups that spring out. Like this whole Kyle Rittenhouse case has justified a lot of right-wing rhetoric regarding militias, and there's going to be more right-wing militias acting out and doing things like when protests arrive, which they will be happening throughout 2022, 23, I think. And when we've got more actors shooting more people at protests, you're going to find that the side that's being shot at will respond in kind. Historically speaking, you see it all the time. Like I would go into it very deep, but I want to give us time to let other people get it.
Everyone's nodding their head. That's great. That's why you should have cheered for the police to stop the riots occurring on the left.
Let's go to Let's go, Doobie, Pan, counterpoints, and then Fnatic. We're gonna give Fnatic some space too.
Yeah, so I actually agree with Rob, surprisingly. So, and Lorenzo, I think the answer is more government, right? It's the government cracking down much more harshly on rioters, on protesters who are like staying out past curfew, right? And putting themselves into situations where violence starts to occur, at dark. Like this seems like
breaking into Congress.
It seems like you have hold on, yeah. It seems like you have the answer in your hand, right? It's more government, more police, more calling of National Guard when things get hairy. This is totally fine to me, right? I don't see how any of this indicates that we need more LARPers running around in body armor with fucking AR-15s, right? So if your contention is that the lefties weren't calling for Antifa to be arrested when they're burning down buildings, so people had to go out with the rifles. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a reasonable response to your community being burned down. Yeah, totally reasonable. So yeah, you cut this off at the bud, right? And you send in the National Guard immediately when shit starts going crazy. But again, there's no indication there to me that the solution to any of this is empowering more people or any people who don't have training, who are civilians, to form militias and show up at protests or rallies or at natural disasters to assert any kind of authority anywhere. Right. So, I think, right now, if you guys are going to define militias as loosely as like, a bunch of people who get together and happen to have guns, we can't really do anything better right now. We need to get rid of the Second Amendment or massively amend the Second Amendment, which I definitely want to do. We got to take their toes away.
But you just gave them reasoning for why not to do that. But you just said that, the police should have done this, but they didn't.
So we should encourage our government officials in your beautiful democracy to have the police do this, right? To call in the National Guard when people are burning buildings down and shit. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, but
they're doing a bad thing. Let's do this other bad thing in
but
response
as
to
we've established, they're 13% less likely to start burning. Rob, 5 seconds.
Right, we get it, Spectre. It's all the Proud Boys. They did everything. There was no left-wing
burning
violence.
down buildings.
Oh my, Spectre, please stop using that.
It doesn't matter.
So
Listen,
incorrect.
the statistic. Let me respond to this real quick. The statistic you're citing doesn't say what you think it is, as we've already pointed out. Even if it did, it's irrelevant. Even if it did, it's irrelevant. It's to if those armed people showing up escalate violence or not. The truth of the matter is there shouldn't have been let me tell you why. The truth of the matter is that they shouldn't have been allowed. The truth of the matter is they shouldn't have been allowed to commit violence with impunity against certain people. And inevitably, if you allow that to happen, other people will rise up and say, we're going to stop this. And yes, that might escalate violence, but the violence could have been stopped. What you're really saying is this would be like, I could imagine you in the Jim Crow South. If these black people would stop coming together to defend themselves, there'd be less violence. If they just
it's the opposite.
Instead of talking about what could have been, let's talk about what could be. Actually,
I have to respond to that motherfucker.
Can we talk about what could be?
Please turn my mom out of it.
Oh boy!
I actually want to hit Rob with this just real quick. I'm really curious.
It's got to be super quick.
We gotta move
I get to respond to that.
Right. So like
2 seconds.
I agree. So like we're talking about what could have been and what we should have done, right? And you're directing it, Rob, directly at like left wing events and ignoring right-wing events and whatever, right?
I just gave
But like
examples of right.
in the future though, would you say that it would be dangerous to have both Proud Boy and Black Lives Matter rallies happening throughout the country causing violence? Wouldn't it make sense for everyone to just stop? Wouldn't you want this to happen at all?
Not if they come to my
it's
grill
a
out.
multifaceted thing. I'll answer as quickly as possible. Yes, what I want to see is the police do their job, because we have the legal right to form militias. We have the legal right to arm ourselves and to protect ourselves. That's true. And we always should have that for reasons we've outlined already in this debate. But the incentive for more people to do it is being driven up because we see political pressure from one side at this point in time. It could have been a different side at a different point in time and in the future that is saying violence in our name is okay. We'll have the police stand down. We saw de Blasio have the police stand down. We saw in Atlanta, Philadelphia, Orlando, Portland. We've seen it all over the place. This provides the incentive. That's why so many people think I need to go join the militia, because I watched my town burn down and my local police did nothing. And they said that it was violent.
Okay, so if there's no reactionary... So I just want to take it to
hold on.
level here.
I saw
Stupid.
Yeah,
if
I
we
did not
go
see
one
police.
if we go one step further, though, and say that the right is justified in arming themselves because leftist government officials took the police back, and then the right wing starts acting in kindness, starting to do things that are inherently violent against the left, then you realize that the left will do the same thing in kind, right? Like, we either have a cycle of violence or we prevent the cycle
And
of
just to clarify, right now, the left is not doing that.
Okay,
at the same rate that the right is.
That's not true at all.
Are you good? All right.
Yeah, it is.
Dollars of damage done by violent lefties and not just you, because clearly Doobie.
We got it. Hold on, no. We got to move on. We got to move on. Pan's been waiting. Pan, counterpoints and Fanatic, quick.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, like, first of all, Doobie, I think you're a bit too optimistic. What you're saying is, hey, if government is good, we won't have to overthrow it, and we won't have to do anything about it. Well, the problem is that we've seen in the past, they do fail at times, and so we need something to do when the government fails. We can't just live in like this utopia where, the government, as long as the government's good, you're right, none of this is going to be necessary for us to do. But as we've seen, there are times where the government fails, like in Kenosha, and they don't stop the rioting and the violence like they, maybe they should have. And that results in people needing to defend their property. Now, you saying that if you just get rid of like the Second Amendment and stuff like you want to, well, that's not going to fix how crappy government is sometimes. It's only going to make it so in these sort of situations that, they won't be able to defend themselves. You said that it was justified for them to go out and protect their property and stuff after all this violence started to occur. But if, they wouldn't be able to do that. Like, they wouldn't have that power if, they didn't have the Second Amendment. So I don't understand. I feel like you're just too naively trusting the government here to do the right thing.
This is a false narrative, by the way. There were already militias in Kenosha before the violence started. So just
it
doesn't have to be about Kenosha.
Really quickly. The government fails sometimes, right? But if the government fails in a society where there are millions of guns floating around in the public, right, among the citizens, right, when the government fails, these conflicts like you had in Kenosha are going to be much more violent, right? Because now you have people with AR-15s.
This is wrong.
You have people with unregistered firearms in their pocket, right? So this seems like so the solution here, right, as we can see from Europe, when you take these toys away from people, less people die, right? Yeah, they can stab each other, but it's far less likely you're going to kill someone with a knife than you are with a gun, right? So, ironically, it seems like the solution to this issue is more government authority, more of the government asserting its a monopoly on violence domestically, right? To totally shut down riots. Protesters who stay up past curfew, militia members running around in the forest, fantasizing and jerking off to watching The Patriot and shit. Right? It seems like the correct response to get rid of all this shit is more tyranny, quote unquote. And I don't think any of you guys have made any arguments to indicate that that's not the case.
Except for let's
go to counterpoints and then Fanatic.
Honestly, I can do it in closing if Fanatic wants to go.
Okay. Oh, we're not gonna do closing. That.
Oh, then I want it. Okay, so Doobie, you are the fucking like I get it. I don't know how much of your personality is memes, how much of it is real. You're the fucking reason why this shit exists in the first place. And on top of that, your insistence that like a society that was armed, coordinated, well-trained, self-sufficient, and all that kind of stuff, that it would collapse harder than a bunch of people who were completely reliant on the government for their security and their social well-being is fucking insane. Like, basically, when you see a governmental failure and collapse where people don't know what to do, then who ends up ruling the anarchy are only the people who know how to use violence, and it's a completely one-sided affair in which whereas within societies that actually have the ability, like, I don't know, built up social networks and built up security infrastructure and built up community structures, those are the places that are going to come together on the local level and actually survive political catastrophe. So I think your diagnosis, assessment, prognosis, I think it's fucking ass cancer. And then on top of that, I think that, like, all it takes is, like, cracking open a history book, and I could come up with, like, example after example after example after example to, like, 3,000 years before Christ of why you're absolutely fucking wrong. But I'll leave it there. That's fine.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
it's
go ahead,
really
Fanatic.
insane to me that, like, Rob Noor, like, I don't know how you're doing this. Like, the whole time you keep making all of these things where you want to try to understand, like, why, or you look at, like, the Proud Boys as a response, but you refuse to look at, like, BLM as a response, like, to something, to an actual problem that occurred within the country, that is currently occurring within this country. I think also, like, it's really, really telling that, like, you for this entire time are trying to equate BLM and Antifa, and those things are entirely different organizations. I mean, there are God knows how many different examples, like video evidence of people, like, while the BLM, or not even BLM, but BLM the movement, not the organization, while there were all of these people that were, like, protesting, and then white Antifa people were showing up and breaking windows and doing all sorts of damage to all sorts of places, and BLM and all the black people there were literally begging them to stop, right? Saying, we're going to get blamed for this. That happened at the Wendy. I don't have to name all the different places. This was a very, very common thing. So then, like, it's really crazy to me that you're almost willing to dismiss all that and pretend as if, like, nope, it's all BLM. Yeah, I think that's absurd. And then finally, what's it called? Nefarious. Like, it's, yeah, I get you're saying, like, you're a European cuck, right? And so it's really insane to me that, like, you would be so opinionated on this subject when you don't, like you probably aren't familiar with our history. Like, when you start making stupid statements like, oh, Americans have a tendency to try to do things themselves. And, well, specifically when it comes to, like, Black Americans, which I guess this is where a lot of this, like, the protests and things were about. The reason why we've done that is because we've been, like, neglected by our government on God knows how many different times. It's specifically when we look at, like, Katrina, how long did it take them before they were able to get food to like the people in Katrina, and how disastrous was their aid there? Yet, when you have that, like, natural disaster, and I think it was at Fukushima, right, where that, like, the
nuclear reactor.
Yes, right. When that thing happened, we saw United States able to mobilize insanely fast. They got there within, like, 2 days. They were able to get all the way across the seas to freaking Japan faster than we could get aid to freaking Katrina. So these kinds of things are why you would see Black Americans recognizing that we are going to have to be self-reliant, because very often the government has failed us. Both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party have done so. The people that we've elected and called Black presidents, like Bill Clinton, like, draft God knows some of the worst legislation for Black people in the history of our country. Even people like Barack Obama didn't do anything specifically for Black people. So then it's like, when you start really going through it, it makes sense that we'd be really self-reliant. We've been asking for reform in the form of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and we see Republicans are completely unable to move. And the way you say our checks and balances are working great, so it seems like the Democrats can't get anything passed. So we've had no legislation, despite God knows some of the most pervasive protests in the history of the country, and still we were unable to move anything. So it makes all the sense in the world why we've become significantly more self-reliant. And when we already see all this ridiculous bias within policing, it would make sense that we would probably not be saying, hey, policemen, we're expecting you to actually fix out all of this, and we'll be reliant on you to actually give us the aid and things that we need. It's freaking retarded.
Based.
Wait.
Except for the Arsler.
No, that was a direct attack. We
just ran out of time for this one. That's what it is. How it goes. But we will continue. We're going to have a second topic, of course. And if you want to respond, I guess, like, your next opening, you can do that to a Fanatic. But to everyone else, I hope you're enjoying what's happening now. Enjoying all of this. If you are, hit that follow button right this second. Make sure notifications are on, So I'm going live. We do this 6 nights a week. We do this a lot, constantly. We do these things, right? And we have people like this on to have hopefully interesting discussions. That part I can't actually guarantee, but we do this all the time. Want you to be here. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications on so I'm going live. Exclamation for social chat for social media. Follow us on Twitter for channel updates. Discord is where the heart and soul of this community. All our conversations happen on Discord. You want to be on Discord to be a part of the community. We've got a great community there that's literally just always active, always talking to each other. Love to see it. Be a part of it. And then, of course, YouTube is where you find the VODs. Like, comment, and subscribe. Our YouTube Bobs. And also, remember, we have YouTube memberships. So if you want to support us that way as well, hit that join button. Make sure and become a member on YouTube to help us out, to support this channel, support the work that we're doing. We'd love to see it. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Topic 2. Louis Vuitton and other high-end retailers were raided by a mob. This was a crime targeting the most wealthy outlets in the nation. A nation that features a tattered safety net that many fall through. A nation that has seen a drastic rise in deaths of despair. So, should the public look at crimes targeting the wealthy and the powerful in the same way as crimes targeting the poor? What if those crimes benefited the rest of the society by either redistributing goods or stopping destructive environmental practice, for example? Should a real-life Robin Hood be celebrated? And again, thank you for Counterpoints for helping put this all together. Love the support, love the help. All right, let's start off with Mad Latin.
I'm going to answer with no to the Robin Hood and then blow the rest of my opening statement to wrap up the last topic. I just want to say that January 6th was a premeditated insurrection against the legal precedents established to transfer power in the United States to benefit a specific political party and president. It might be comparable to Chaz, but it was infinitely worse and clearly a reason why we should not let Proud Boys and others be considered a official militia that's trying to, protect us. But yeah, no to the Robin Hooding thing. I don't think that actually benefits anyone. Yeah. Okay.
Chaz is pretty dumb though.
So I just want to say that the Robin Hood thing is kind of weird. I mean, redistribution policies and stuff like that should be carried out, ironically again, through a central organization such as the government. The onus shouldn't be on an individual to carry out these policies, stuff like that. Also, I just want to address what Fanatic was saying. Just because government is failing you currently doesn't mean that you just say fuck the government. I've studied organizations such as the Black Panther Party extensively for a long time, and I understand that in certain environments you were forced to act on your own and from outside of the system. This doesn't mean that you just say fuck democracy and fuck any action within the system. Black people have been incredibly disenfranchised throughout the history of the US, and even currently are disenfranchised to a certain extent. But that does not mean that you can't operate from within the system and try to fix the system.
Gotcha. A counter.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because obviously we're in a time of increased political polarization and also kind of excuses for why shitty behavior should be tolerated because it's moral even if it's illegal, basically. And my frustration with this thing is that basically no, I don't think we should be able to do Robin Hood shit. I don't think we should proverbially eat the rich or whatever. But I also think the rich should be on notice. COVID has hit people super hard. The way our economy has been hit has been super hard, and it seems like they're asleep at the wheel. So they're looking at a population that has taken severe hits to their wealth. I've heard it described as a K-shaped economy, meaning that people who have tech skills that are valued by society, their wages are skyrocketing, whereas people who have skills that are not valued by society, they're basically cratering or staying stagnant. And so I would see the raiding of the store and the excusing of that crime by people on social media as basically signs that we're in a bad position culturally and we need to fix it. So yeah, I'll leave that for the open.
Hector.
No, everything that Connor just said. I don't think that we should necessarily celebrate it as the yay Robin Hood meme, but the rich should be on fucking notice, dude. They didn't do much to fix the problems that COVID caused. There's certain areas of the country that they haven't done anything to fix the problems of for well over 100 years that they've been saying they get to, like Appalachia, different parts of the South, inner cities out on the coast, right? Yeah, so like when this kind of thing happens, like I feel bad for the business. I feel bad for the businesses already due to the fact that like when they took away our unemployment here in Texas, for example, they lost $3 million just stripped out of the economy. And that's what this gets back to. They kind of mentioned in the question, right? The tattered safety nets. Like we don't have anything to actually put money back into the economy right now in a place where it has velocity, where it actually goes up to the top from the bottom and helps everybody out. We just, keep on writing fucking checks to banks and wonder why this happens.
Rob.
So I agree with everyone as far as the note of the Robin Hood thing, but let's get into the detail a little more. First, January 6th is being blown massively out of proportion to be used to have a domestic war on terrorism, just to answer. Second, I agree with Fanatic that there was a difference between BLM and Antifa, but both engaged in violence. Even though they're separate groups, there were left-wing violence that occurred in both those. Now, to this topic, more specific issues that I want to talk about. Does anyone find it ironic that the question mentions the sprawl of tattered safety nets as possibly a justification for what's going on? And yet Louis Vuitton is in a place that has the biggest safety net governmentally, right? Does anyone think that's a coincidence? They have the most socialist policies in places like San Francisco and California. So they have these big safety nets, bigger safety nets, and yet poverty is still existing. The reality is it's more than just saying a safety net. Like there's a lot of things that goes in to making people economically successful and making people so they're not in desperate situations and things like that. And the only other thing I'll say right now at the beginning of this topic is like, be careful what you're wishing for. Like the idea that this is somehow punishing the rich because it's Louis Vuitton. Much of this, what ends up happening in the name of people that think that these sort of things, which no one said it's good, but that defend this or downplay it is, what happens is a lot of places, and not just Louis Vuitton, but places like Target or mom and pop gas stations and things like that, the same sort of thing hits them as well. And then what ends up happening is all of these retailers leave these places, and then it's poor people that suffer the most because they don't have jobs close to them, they don't have retailers close to them, etc. So this is a reason to sort of reject this. And look, being wealthy itself is not immoral. Oftentimes the people that want to say, well, the rich deserve it, what they really mean is the people that have slightly more money than me. Because I'll bet, I'm just guessing, I'm betting all 9 of us here, by the world standard and by the history of the world, would be considered very, very rich, all 9 of us. And yet we wouldn't say that that wealth is somehow immoral and we could justify people robbing us and things like that.
I agree. My yachts, I think, have nothing to do with anything. They've never hurt anyone. And the fact that some people get jealous about that, I just don't understand it. Like, get back to
Me
your
neither.
hovels. Yeah. Back to your hovels. But okay. And I want to try to reorient this a little bit because people are focusing too much on the Louis Vuitton thing. The Louis Vuitton thing was just like a jumping off point. More want to focus on that second half when I was talking about crimes that redistribute wealth, or that keep an environmental disaster from happening, right? Like crimes by people who are powerful. Actions by people who are powerful, and then like the public responding in the face of a government that doesn't seem to be able to do so. So yeah, that's like, so let's not focus too much on Louis Vuitton. Like that part's just inspiration. Go ahead, Fanatic.
Oof, okay. New topic. I'm not going to even address all those other stupid statements that were thrown at me during this open. Yeah. So ultimately, I think, we obviously recognize that like crimes against the wealthy are never going to be something that we cherish. Never something that we celebrate, right? Like it's obviously going to be problematic. What that would do is end up degrading the justice system and just our idea of justice, such that it would create so much negative utility, so much more negative utility than any sort of benefits that would be gotten in sort of some sort of redistribution, like from ill-gotten gains, right? Like I think that's obviously going to be super problematic. I think justice has to be equitable. Like that's a given. And then let me see, what else did I write? The wealthy are able to recover significantly with much more facility than like the non-wealthy. So we should obviously focus on people who are going to be like negatively impacted more by like whatever the negative things that we're talking about here. In a nutshell, I just don't think there's any benefit in like celebrating those kind of things. I think we should probably all recognize that just injustice is an injustice, and yeah, that's that.
Problematic, Pam.
Yeah, so like Rob, I have a little bit of problem with the framing of this question. Just because the direct victims of the crime are wealthy doesn't mean that this crimes against the rich don't ultimately harm the poor. If we take a look at San Francisco and California in general, a lot of their laws on stealing and stuff has caused a lot of businesses to decide to leave. I think there's like 22 Walgreens that had shoplifting rates so high that they basically just closed down the store. And ultimately, what happens when these stores close down is, well, poor people are hurt because, first of all, they can't buy stuff there anymore. They can't gain benefits from I don't know, buying stuff there. They can't have jobs, any of that stuff. So I kind of, first of all, I reject the notion that you can limit the negative externalities of crimes against the rich to the rich. If we're talking about someone who's poor stealing a loaf of bread from the rich, okay, yeah, that's okay. I mean, obviously, in some circumstances, if you make it so that the rich person is so rich and the poor person is taking so little and it's just to survive, obviously that's going to be justified. But the vast majority of these so-called Robin Hood crimes that we're talking about do not, benefit the poor. They benefit the thief, and the poor people are the ones who get hurt as well. As Fanatic said, the rich people can shrug off these losses. So even then, I would say the primary people that get hurt from this isn't the rich people who can shrug off the fact that they lost a Louis Vuitton bag. It's the poor people who now, because of higher crime areas, have businesses leaving the area and becoming poorer and poorer. So if you can make it so that all of the negative externalities against the poor people, go away, then maybe it's justifiable. But unfortunately, in the real world, you can't isolate those externalities. So it's never going to be okay. Well, not never, as I said with the bread, but you get my point. Hyperbole.
I actually agree with everything Pan said, and just kind of hammer the point a little bit. So there was like this big article a while back, last year during the George Floyd riots, protests, whatever you want to call. At the height of which like lefties were, I don't want to say all lefties, but a lot of lefties were justifying the violence, saying, it's just Target. Oh, boo-hoo, they're going to burn down a Target, yada yada, right? Target closed down, I think, almost like 200 stores across the country when all that was going on. Each one of the stores employs 150 to 200 people, right? So like tens of thousands of people across this country who are probably like lower class because they're working at fucking Target were out of a job for months because people were saying boo-hoo, it's just a Target, yada yada, and think it was totally fine to go and do this. So just to hammer the point in, I agree with everything Pan says. So I'm not going to go through it again, but yeah, that's my position.
So, just to get into this, I just want to talk about the safety nets that are currently not like helping us. So, like, our safety nets are designed to, like, it seems like our safety nets are designed not to help us specifically, but to stabilize the failings of, like, the late stage capitalism that we're experiencing right now. We do need better safety nets, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to, like, it doesn't mean that the safety nets that exist are like inherently the problem. Like if you look at, like, for example, the 2008 bank bailouts, these bailouts were directed to the banks rather than the people who are in debt to the banks. And if we actually directed the money there, then maybe everybody would have benefited, right? The banks would have gotten paid, and then the people who are in debt wouldn't have, like, suffered foreclosures, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can see it again in like how our COVID unemployment bonuses are being, like our COVID unemployment bonuses are actually being withheld by governments to compel us to go back to work for those already low wages that we've all been able to enjoy, and the higher risks now associated with COVID. I do think there's a major realignment going in our favor, so we're like looking to make a lot more money by holding out and negotiating. But like we still have a culture of corporate waste. Like there's when folks work at like watch store. I can't remember the name of this store, but I remember like going behind the store, hanging out with a friend or whatever, and they were literally cutting $200 pieces of merchandise so that they couldn't be dumpster dived later. Yeah. So like they're like destroying products with the intent of not allowing these products to be reused, or like Bed Bath & Beyond, like spray painting bedding so that people wouldn't use it. So I think like there needs to be a major reassessment of like what is acceptable in terms of capitalism. Also, I just wanted to add real quick, January 6th is not being blown out of proportion. It was a direct attack on democracy in a worse sense than that of the Brooks Brothers riot, which decided who would be president in 2000 and coordinated by the same person, Roger Stone. These attacks will continue as a result. We should not understate the threat. Okay.
Why didn't the FBI find that out?
No,
And
we're not
secondly, why
talking
didn't you-
about the January 6th.
You're supposed
Fine,
to
we'll
tack
talk
it
about it
on
some
as
other
topics. This is the
Anyways, my
yeah.
question on this topic is, seeing as how it seems we're unanimous that this sort of behavior is bad, do you fault prosecutors in places like San Francisco for not charging the people that are looting? Do you think that they need harsher penalties for these people that are doing these things?
So
So,
institutional reform. Oh, go ahead.
I want you to answer that question, but like again, you guys have been focused too hard on this one fucking story. It's not the important part, right? So, for instance, if like we had like a hacking attack or something at a company that was polluting, right? Like polluting a river or something, right? Like government regulations, or at least aren't being put in place, or they're not being followed, right? Like let's say they own the government, and then like you do a hacking attack, you literally stop the polluting, stop the poisoning of the environment itself, right? It's something like that against the powerful. Is that something to be celebrated, right? And this is all in the face of an unresponsive or uncaring government. Like, do we want that?
So it depends on the
No.
institutional recourse, right? Like if there's no institutional recourse, if we have no way of actually preventing the pollution, if we have no way of like addressing our grievances, if there's no way to prevent company X from poisoning millions of Americans, then there is an argument for the recourse of the vigilante. The problem, actually this ties directly back into our militia conversation, is like that this like a thing is very subjective. Deciding whether a company deserves to be punished or a company should be attacked, et cetera, is very, very based on like, you know, your own personal affirmations and beliefs, and it will clash directly with almost everyone else on some level. So it's definitely a dangerous line to cross, I think.
No, I totally agree. I agree with that. Like, again, this is why I think that violence in the name of politics today is unacceptable on any issue that I've seen. Period. I don't care if you believe the system's systemically racist or if you believe that the election was stolen. None of that justifies using violence. And that would go to show that it also doesn't justify sort of extrajudicial attacks on people's wealth through theft and other things like that. It doesn't, nothing we see justifies that. Is there a hypothetical case for something like that in the future? Could be, sure. But the problem is, as soon as you say, well, yeah, there are times that that's justified, the very next step is everyone saying, oh, and my cause is one of those. My cause is so important that, yes, it justifies, and we see this all the time, right? If you say, is it okay to punch a Nazi? People will be like, sure, it's okay to punch a Nazi. And then they say, okay, everyone I disagree with is a Nazi. Or is it okay to, you know, what I deal with this with people on the right, many of like maybe type militia people that we were talking about before. They'll say, sometimes the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of tyrants. Yeah, but only on your issue, right? Not if the left wants to do it. If the left wants to do it, you say that's terrorism. But when it's you, you're like, yeah, it's okay for us to want to do it. So no, we just have to say, even if there are things on the periphery, we could say, well, hypothetically, we could see a situation for the purposes of how we engage in politics and how we engage with each other right now. We have to say, no, this stuff is unacceptable, because even for every one time where you could say, in that case, it would have been beneficial, there will be a million times that it will be abused and will make this country a far poorer place for all of us.
I think the difference is it doesn't matter if we condemn like the crime that people do as a response to poverty. Frankly, they're still going to do it. Like they're desperate enough that they do not care how you punish them. Like at a certain point, they're gonna fucking rob the Louis Vuitton store. They're gonna fucking loot the Target, right?
You've heard the phrase looting is like looting and riots are part of the language of the unheard. So it sounds like I don't like being on a thing where we're just all like openly and unanimously agreeing like, yeah, this thing is bad, but then
I'm not interested in whether or not it's bad, because like the thing is that if you say it's bad, that implies a prescription that it still isn't going to do anything, because it doesn't matter how bad you punish these people, they are still going to behave in this way.
That's
so
not true.
Again, the best way to deal with that would be to simply give them better social safety nets. I agree with you, by the way, Rob. It's not just about giving them money. We got to build out infrastructure too. We got to put money into fucking education. Yeah, like we got to create
That's
jobs.
The problem. Too much. The education. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the indoctrination in education. But the problem that you're isolating.
I love you, Rob. I love you, Rob. I appreciate you being here. I really do, actually.
Yeah,
you're right.
We increase the amount of money We've increased the amount of money we put in education year after year, and yet the quality of our education goes down and down. So saying that the problem is throwing more money at education, if we don't fundamentally solve the problems with our education system, is irrelevant. Throwing more money at a broken system.
No, that's not true at all.
That's not what we do.
Sure,
he's arriving.
A lot of our schools are getting less and less money every year because it compounds in on itself due to the fact that schools are funded based off of graduation rates and attendance. So if you are a low-performing school and you have students dropping out or not graduating, that is actually going to result in less money, which will then result in less people graduating, and it'll just keep on getting worse and worse and worse. So don't
that would be, but that would, even if that was true, that would be true on a micro. Even if that was true, it'd be true on a micro level of specific schools. But we could see our education system on whole. So, for example, what you're saying would be, please let me finish. Let me finish. What you're saying, we would see it wouldn't be zero sum, right? Because what would happen would be, well, less people are graduating from this school, but that would either mean one, there were less people graduating overall, but then the schools that were graduating more would get, as long as the whole pie is growing, which it is, the amount of money we're putting into education, then other schools would be getting more money, and we would expect on the whole to see our education increasing. We don't. The education, despite putting more money in it in the macro level, is still declining.
Do you understand that this is why wealth inequality between white people and black people is worse now than it was under the end of Jim Crow?
So let's go, Hunt. Let's go to you'll be able to respond. Lorenzo, Doobie, Mad Latin, Pan.
So Rob is arriving to the right conclusion with the wrong working, but I guess it still works. Throwing money at education will only solve part of the problems. That's expenses for books and teachers and stuff like that. But Rob is 100% correct that there has to be a revamp in the education system that doesn't necessarily have to do with money. Of course, he's talking about CRT and black people fucking influencing the beautiful white kids.
Damn,
but of course, I'm talking about a more Montessori education system when it comes to preschools and stuff like that. They're specific things that have to change, and it's not all money. Yeah.
Let's go to Doobie.
So I don't have a whole lot to say just yet, but I just wanted to point out that it's pretty interesting to see people who were saying that we need armed militias to fight a tyrannical government, saying in response to the Prime's hypothetical, where you have a corporation that owns the government's totally unresponsive to your pleas for help when this corporation is polluting and poisoning your community. You said that even in that scenario, there's no justification for taking up arms and fighting that company. That seems really fucking weird. I don't know. It seems like you're holding this company, you're putting them on a pedestal. Whereas if the government were poisoning your community and you're telling them to stop, and they're saying "fuck you," we're going to poison your community anyway, you'd probably say, "Oh God, it's time to take up arms and overthrow the fucking government." Really fucking weird. I don't get it.
Right now,
but it's interesting.
If there's a place that's happening, he said it could hypothetically be justifiable, right? So if there is a place where this company is completely polluting the water and stuff in a river, then yeah, maybe it would be justified. I don't think. Well, at least I wouldn't, necessarily disagree with that.
I'll respond directly. It's because you're misunderstanding what I'm saying on the militia topic, right? I'm saying that a militia has the right to exist for defense, right? And what I'm talking about specifically in the situation like Kenosha is they saw their property being attacked. They had the right to defend themselves because the government was not taking up the mantle of providing the defense that the social contract that us as the people have signed that say, yeah, that's absolutely true. They allowed that community to defend it. Right?
How many arrests were there? The police were actually active, in that night. That was happening. So there were no police. There were no arrests on that night.
That's a straw man. You know that. What are you doing?
They were active. They were active. There were no. It's not a straw man. My argument was how many arrests were there that we saw that the police were clearly active. So then, if you're saying they weren't active, then that means you wouldn't see any arrests, or you wouldn't have seen a completely disarmed police. We saw Kyle Rittenhouse walk past a bunch of police with sirens on, going to where some of the unrest was happening. What are you talking about? How many arrests happened that night?
That's a question of capacity.
So let me answer.
Right. So they were responding.
Is the fact that I understand more filibuster, classic fanatic.
They weren't responding.
You asked the question.
At least you got it. Counterpoints.
You can't let me respond because this is constantly your motif. You know that you can't keep up with almost anyone intellectually unless you're playing the.
That's why you never talk to me one-on-one, Rob.
Please you just filibuster over them after you ask them the question. I sit there and listen to you.
And make your stupid point already.
The Rittenhouse situation directly proves that the police weren't active because they sit there and watched the Rittenhouse situation happen because they stood back. We've seen over and over that mayors admitted that they told the police to stand back and allow the riots to, quote, burn themselves out. This occurred in Pittsburgh. This occurred in Philadelphia. It occurred in New York. It occurred in Portland. It occurred in Seattle.
Did it occur in Kenosha?
In Kenosha.
Did it occur in Kenosha?
Yes, just because they may have arrested. Real quick, just because they may have arrested
no one cares.
People at periphery, they clearly wasn't effective at stopping the violence. You can say no one believes me. That's fine. The reality is the truth that we can see that this violence occurred for 3 nights, and we saw these mass amounts of riots, fires, and things like that going on with impunity.
Okay. Mad Latin, and then problematic Pan. end
So
spectrum.
to bounce off of Doobie's point, like that is actually really interesting. Like the government is failing its social contract and not like holding companies accountable for, like for example, the DuPont company has gotten a lot of trouble for letting BFAs or is it PFAs? PFAs in the water system. PFAs are this toxic chemical that does bad things, obviously, and they've been polluting a lot of rural areas with their the industry. I believe it was for frying pans. They were putting Teflon on, using PFAs to put Teflon in frying pans, and as a required adhesive to make it all work. And what these companies will do, they'll just like walk away from their factories when the heat gets too high, and then they leave these rural communities in ruin. And the government's not doing anything to stop these. I mean, the government does some things to, like, try to clean up, try to claim recompense from the industry. But at the end of the day, these companies still get to continue to pollute and continue to ruin these communities. So I do think there's something to be said about communities kind of getting recourse for protecting themselves because they're slowly being poisoned, right? I also wanted to talk. Oh, I lost the thread because we got into that heated thing about Kenosha. I have something later.
Education.
Thank you. Yeah, education. Yeah. So going back to the education, a big part of keeping people able to make money is to give them the ability to generate wealth. It's not just, we don't want to just hand money to people. We want them to have a way of generating money consistently, whether that's through land or education or having like trade skills. And I think there's something to be said for money being put into education, and us in the United States having like the sort of saturation of folks going to college, and then like a lower percentage of the population getting into the trade skills, which are, quite a bit more lucrative than some of the university educations that they'll have. I also want to say, as someone who goes to a variety of schools regularly to teach students chess, there's definitely a correlation between money at a school and how the kids behave and how cooperative they are in my classes. I've noticed that the less money there is in the education system overall, or in the school, involved in the school that I'm teaching at, the more uncooperative the kids tend to be. This is an anecdotal thing, and it might not be relevant, but I mean, I've taught at like hundreds of schools at this point, so I've seen a lot of schools, and so it's like a fairly good anecdotal point, I think. But I would need like some statistics to back up my point here. Anyway, that's all.
Wait, so
Thanks,
can
man.
you guys just just kind of bouncing off what Mad Lad said right there? There are companies like fracking companies that poison drinking water across the country. You can look at like Flint, Michigan, where for I think like decades now they've had issues with lead in the fucking drinking water, and it's causing like massive problems across the population there. So decades. So the government doesn't seem to be very responsive. Right? Some of these problems are being caused by private corporations. So at what point is it okay, Rob, for a militia to get together, a group to get together and say, hey, fuck this. This is killing our children. It's killing our people. Now we're going to take down this corporation.
It's not. Right?
Is that by corporations? I thought the Flint water crisis had to do with the.
I didn't realize we have so many
government
ANCAPs on this fucking
pipes.
panel. Like ever? There's like when?
I could give my response if you want.
Go for it.
They don't have the response to do it because there's other more effective. So there's the moral question of, do they morally have the right? No, they don't. And the reason is because as soon as we say that they morally have the right, then everyone will say, well, there's an issue in my town that I think's unfair. So we're going to get the people together and we're going to go in and use violence and try and shake that all at once. But the world would look like the way, as soon as we say that that's legitimate, what we'll see is constantly everyone will take up that mantle. Then there's also, even if you don't belie the moral argument, there's the strategic argument. No, there are better ways to go about dealing with these things, whether it be corporations or state acting poorly, which is negatively affecting, than picking up arms and starting to kill people or destroy a company or sabotage it through physical violence and things like that. For example, we have information. You can get campaigns. You can go out and do stuff. You go out and mobilize people to pressure to change things in a peaceful way. If you go in, what do you think is going to happen right now? So, for example,
Rob, how does all this not apply to the government? How does everything you just said not apply to the government? Everything.
What do you? I don't understand the question.
Rob,
yes, it applies to corporations and the government. And
okay, so then why do we need militias at all? Then?
Oh my God, can I answer this question? I'm gonna fucking die.
We're talking about extreme violence.
Right, and it's not just that, right? If the idea is you have the right to get together to defend yourself. If you're saying right now, right? For example, a militia has the right. Let me ask you this, Prime. If you
Hold on,
want
before you do that, hold on. Problematic Parent said extreme violence. Hold on. Like, is poisoning the community and killing them dead, one way or the other, is that not extreme violence, right? It might
I'm
be
not
slower.
accepting
Hold on.
problematic
Pan. Yeah, that's fine if you're not acquainted his definition. But like Pan, like extreme violence, right? Or economic violence when like they're literally tossing you out of your house, right? Now they get the government to do it, they get the police to do it, right? Rather than like literally armed thugs, right? They get the police, a better dressed thugs to do it, but there's still violence that's being done to you and your family, right? Like, so you're saying all of that. So the government, corporations, can do all of that, and we can't respond in equal fashion, or through, again, I gave a peaceful means, like through hacking, right? Or but we can take up arms against like the government directly with their planes, with their tanks, with all that. That makes more sense. Those two things can exist simultaneously.
No, but I didn't say that. I do think that if they're poisoning your water supply and killing you slowly, and you've exhausted all other means, and you're still getting killed off slowly, it's definitely fine. I mean, those companies are like violating your rights. So yeah, you should have a right to do violent action if all those other means have
I would look.
have been exhausted.
I hate doing this. I hate being this person, but I would say in those sorts of situations, as opposed to like doing some sort of violence, I would say it'd probably be better just to move. Now, I get that not everybody has the ability to move. I get that has with it all of its costs and all those things. But I promise you, like the actual opportunity cost from like jumping in this like government sanctioned freaking organization and going into war with your militia, and that getting you imprisoned and thereby not allowing you to provide for your family is so much worse.
Okay, guys, can I please address this? This is fucking insane.
I has been brown there for 10 years. If so they could move, they would have moved by now. Everybody who can get out of Flint is fucking long gone, my man. Nobody's just staying there hoping that the situation gets better. Come on.
Can I please go? This is fucking insane.
Violence would be morally justifiable, not that it's the optimal course. I agree with you that leaving would probably be a better solution in this case. Okay. But if someone were to get violent about it, I wouldn't blame them.
Okay, hold on. Okay, please let me go. Please let me go. Please.
Oh God, counterpoints doing his thing again.
Oh, you've talked like fucking 5 times more than me on this subject so far. So do you want to fucking bitch about me talking, or you just want me to fucking talk? Well, I haven't talked yet, so shut the fuck up. Stop bitching. Stop bitching. Stop bitching. You spend no. Fuck this. You spend half your time on this panel bitching. No. Fuck you. You spend half your time on this panel bitching.
You're wasting time.
Yeah, no shit. So do you, bitch.
Bitching is kind of like a gender insult, so I'd appreciate if you didn't do it.
Oh, okay. Complaining aggressively. So anyways, the point of it is the argument. I saw all of your eyes light up as soon as we were talking about like parallels to the militia argument, where you were like, oh well, if corporations are abusing this shit, then doesn't it just make sense that you should be able to apply the same moral logic? Well, even when we were talking about the militias or whatever, you have to understand violence is like an absolute last resort, and on top of that, there's situations in which like there's parallel power structures that you're supposed to appeal to first. We're not talking about vigilantism. We're not talking about using militias to replace law enforcement. We're talking about using law enforcement first, using the courts first.
That was big into the question, though.
Yeah.
That was big into the question.
Okay. So I would say, if the government was intentionally poisoning you, people were getting cancer, and over like decades of unaddressed problems, you weren't like able to get your redress, I would not say that you should attack like law enforcement or attack politicians. But what you should do is you should get a bunch of dudes with guns, go down to the water supply, fix whatever the fucking problem is, get your own water engineers in there, and then basically say, hey, if you come in and fuck this shit up, then basically we're going to do what we got to do in order to protect our own communities. And by the way, as much as this seems far-fetched, in Mexico, this has happened multiple times, where law enforcement is so corrupt and the cartels run with impunity that local militias have said, despite the strict gun laws in our community, we are going to purchase illegal firearms, we're going to patrol our own cities with our own militias, and as a result, they kicked out both law enforcement and the cartels. So there are real-world parallels for the kind of things that we're talking about that I think are absolutely fucking based.
There are parallels here, too. Like, what if it's not decades? Let's say it's just 1 decade, and the problem's not going to get fixed because the fucking president came by and fake drank the water and said, "Oh, it's fine, it's brown, but don't worry about it."
Well, I mean, if you want to use like an IRL example, like Saddam Hussein, basically,
I'm talking about Flint, Michigan, but I mean,
well, do you want to keep it with the business parallel and corruption, or do you want to keep it with like intentional violence? What do you want to do here?
Well, I mean, like Flint, Michigan is actually business and it's private. It's government. Sorry, because like the government basically there was like corruption with the city council and the mayor. They had a deal with the dude who was like going to get them cheaper water supply, so they switched back over to an older pipe system.
Yeah.
And that's why there's now lead in the water.
Okay, I have another example. I have another example. I think it's was it the Lebanon recently where they had like that dock explosion that killed like a few hundred people, and it was basically due to governmental neglect of the situation, and they gave the government about a year to get their shit together, and they didn't. So basically, militias took to the streets in order to say you need to get your shit together. I think that like while I don't know what the ultimate aims of that movement are, I would say if there were extenuating circumstances in which the government wasn't meeting the needs of the people, eventually corruption becomes negligent homicide, and at that point I would say it would be on the people to affect their own changes. Absolutely.
So in Flint, Michigan, for example, you'd be if that happened tomorrow, like if Flint, Michigan like started doing the riot thing, like that's okay now? Or
well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, haven't they had like drinkable water since like 2019, and isn't this kind of a fucking meme at this point?
What do you mean? No, not as far as I know.
Okay, then I'm literally going to pull it up on stream right now because I'm pretty sure I've heard this multiple times.
I think they've improved.
Yeah, didn't they have Obama come and like drink literally brown water and be like,
that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. But I don't quote me.
No, okay. Can somebody? Sorry, a teammate jumped into my warthog. So if somebody else could please Google it. I'm pretty sure that the lead contaminants within Flint, Michigan, have been below the fucking like regulated safety standard for parts per million since 2019. Other people, because basically they feel so fucked over by their government, they have decided to not drink the water and are still drinking bottled water. But I think that's pretty much a choice at this point, not actually like a necessity.
So they solved the problem without the violence. Now, let me ask you, Spectre. Let's say that they would have started killing some people or destroying pipes and stuff. Would it have been better? Would it have been more effective?
Considering that it went on for damn near a decade, like I don't even know how to answer that question. Also, like this wasn't a hard problem to fix. Because when
it's a very hard problem to fix. What are we talking about?
No, I just told you what. You don't listen when I explained what happened.
No, I listened, but they had to repipe half the fucking city. That's a pretty complex problem.
They already had the old pipes that they were using. They already had the old pipes that they were using. That wasn't with the dude that the city council had an in with. And when listen, let me finish this because this is so fucked up, and you can look it up, dude. Like when they got to a point where the lead in the water was actually affecting the cars at the factory that they would have to wash off at the end, like it is affecting the structural integrity of the car, they switched those pipes back before they did the other ones, like unironically.
So I just want to say
we were able to get clean water in for that.
If it's economically necessary to continue the health of the city, that kind of makes sense. But, you know...
And I actually think this is interesting that these two topics have coincided like that because, like, again, so if we look at this seems to going back to the previous topic, the idea of we just trust the government. The government will take care of all these things. One of the reasons that the government probably eventually felt compelled to be able to fix this problem was because they started to get fucking afraid that the people weren't going to take it anymore. If the people aren't allowed to be armed, now, real quick, if the people aren't allowed to be armed, then perhaps the government says, we don't give a fuck. There's nothing you can do. This is the difference. Let me finish my point real quick. Let me finish my point real quick. This is the difference between having the right to arm yourself, being a deterrent because you don't have to use it. Whereas if we took away that people's rights, then we may find ourselves in this situation where we wish that threat was there to compel the government, which created this problem in the the place, to do the right thing.
Who's arguing? It was actually a conversation.
Y'all brought up the militia parallel. What the fuck?
Whatever. So what's actually interesting about the whole fact that this is government run or whatever, as a Michigander, actually, I was in Michigan at the time this whole Flint thing was happening. It was actually the Republican governor of Michigan who actually decided to switch the water. There was he had emergency powers over the city, and then directed that the water supply be changed. And it's not to say that Republican governor bad, et cetera. It's just very interesting that we're talking about like the government being directing, like, you know, controlling the water supply, and you would think that a right-wing governor would have, you know, found some sort of solution that didn't involve the government, and then proceeded to do the thing that.
Okay, do you know why? Because
criticized.
it's cheap, and Republicans tend to be fiscal conservatives. He fucked up.
True.
He fucking he tried to save
It
a dime
wasn't
and ended up
just
spending $1. So
That
yeah.
wasn't the main problem. The main
There's also
problem was that they
apparently
wanted to
some
give
nepotism
access
going
to the Nestle to have actually have access to the water, and that's what it did. And so then he switched it. Then like that was his real motivation. And that
Was it
where he
connected
made
to
that-
the
And my
Nestle
point, and sorry, and with the pipes, and maybe I'm wrong because it's been a long time, but what I remember, it was just switching the water source, and then the water source, because it wasn't properly balanced, right?
was more
Clogged the
acidic.
pipes, the
Yeah.
pipes, and then they had to actually repipe the area. I remember them actually having them dig it out, but each
That's
house
exactly
cost a
right.
certain amount of money, and then they weren't on supply of it. That's my understanding of it.
You are right. Bro.
That's accurate.
That's exactly what it is. It's not all what these other idiots were saying.
What the fuck were we saying?
No,
dude?
okay, no.
We said the same shit. What the fuck are you talking
literally
about?
said the same shit.
I think he was talking about Spectre.
No,
Spectre had a
hold
different
on, because
explanation.
you are saying different stuff. Hold on, Mad Lad. Didn't you say that like the Republican governor basically switched the piping system?
No, not
It
the piping
switched the water.
system. The source of the
The
water
source of the
source.
water?
And the water source, the new water source. No,
He did. No. Mad Latin did. But like, I think Spectre, you had a different answer with the.
That's what I was under the impression of, because I was under the impression that they still managed to get clean water in for like car companies that were washing.
Yeah, because they
I'm sure
switched
they
their
did.
source back. Is from my understanding
okay.
of the situation.
Right.
Well,
And the point is, the new water source corroded the pipes. And
Yeah,
that's why
water
they're
source
kind of
corroded the
like-
pipes.
But
yeah.
okay,
We're
but
all on the same
guys,
thing. We're not all idiots, Fanatic.
Okay, but
Just making sure that's clear.
do you understand that? Like, do you understand that repiping would solve the problem too? Because the problem was the fact that it was like an old style of pipe. So when they had the corrosive pipe, that's where the lead was coming from because it was leaching from the fucking pipe. So you have two fucking things there.
See,
You can go
that's why I
for the
said
better
counterpoint
treated
was an
water.
idiot.
Okay, so
That's
you can
why I
go
was
with.
saying Counterpoint was one of the idiots because he's wrong. It had nothing. It's not about the pipe system. It had everything to do with the water source. The water source corrupted the
Fucker,
pipe.
do you want me
so then
to
they had
Google
change
this
the
shit right
pipe,
now?
but it was-
Oh
yes,
my
I do.
God.
Yes,
You're a
yes,
fucking
I
idiot.
would love that. Yes,
You
I
are
would
have to argue
so
about
love
this.
that.
I don't think you guys are.
Counterpoint. Go
No,
ahead.
fuck
literally-
this. Fanatic wants to waste half his time bitching about how other people fucking talk, and he wants to
Because
act
you're
like he's
an
fucking.
idiot, that's why.
No,
Go
Fanatic,
with it.
you're a fucking tool, and you're consistently a tool. So you can eat my
okay.
whole asshole, bro.
Okay, great. I don't think you guys were even that far apart in this, all right? And I don't think it's where I
Yeah,
just
that's
was
all
a
right.
little,
This is just me and
confused.
Fanatic because he's a fucking asshole.
Okay, all right,
The
right.
smartest- that was the
Moving
smart one, though, you idiot.
on. Mad Latin, finish your point, and then Doobie, please.
Well, fuck. What was my point? I lost. You go ahead, Doobie.
Okay,
Just
Doobie,
go.
please.
Now, I see.
So
Doobie, let me know when you're fucking done, dude.
control your impulses, mister. Okay. So
Fucking
I just want to be
idiot.
very clear about Rob's position. So if we did have a situation where there's a corporation that was in with the government or the government official in the area, and they were doing something terrible to the local population, right? And there was and the government was unresponsive to the population's a request to fix the problem, you would be okay with an armed militia coming together and doing what they needed to do to stop whatever this corporation was doing.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, I
Robert?
said no. Yeah,
No.
the reason you want a reason? Sure.
Yeah.
Tried to give a little brevity, and people asked for more for once. That's fine.
Okay.
Great.
I just
the
didn't hear
reason
you.
is because there's the fact that they could arm themselves in protest. That would be fine. The idea that they unilaterally arm themselves and attack and use physical violence is not fine. Right? Is there a hypothetical where if this went on for decades and decades and the people kept to bring, but the problem is at that point, once people, like, for example, Flint.
Okay.
Imagine, let's use
Rob,
that as the real
Rob,
example.
please,
So once
can I please, for the
yeah,
love
let
of
me
God,
finish real
interject?
quick, and then I promise. Like,
You
I'll be
gotta
30
respond, and
seconds
then-
at the most. 30 seconds at the most. I'll just say this. Like, look at the Flint situation. Do we think that would have brought help if people would have armed themselves and attacked the governor or attacked the company that, was not after the switch of water, didn't properly do things with the pipe? No, it wouldn't have helped, right? Now, the fact that people had a voice and brought pressure to that voice, it may have taken a long time, but that informing people was the real warfare. The ability to have the potential to defend yourself is important for being able to have teeth behind the forcing government to be afraid and actually change their policies. But even in that situation, I do not think it would have been morally acceptable nor strategic to have people pick up arms and start shooting at people like Governor Rick Snyder.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Fanatic, you fucking idiot. Literally 20 seconds of fucking Googling. The first thing that pops up is the fact that how they fix the problem is by repiping the fucking city. You would know this shit if you fucking Googled it, because the pipes are made out of lead. So if you come back at me and you say, Connor, it's because the water is corrosive. No shit. What is it corrosive to? The lead pipes, you fucking tool. So next time you come on a fucking panel with me, if you don't want me to talk to you like this, number one, stop policing the way other people fucking talk. Number two, don't spend 20% of your fucking talking time policing the way other people talk. Number three, when you think you're fucking right about something and you use a term like disgusting or idiot, know what the fuck you're talking about, because you are a fucking tool who literally does not know what the fuck you're talking about, and it literally took me 10 seconds to verify the information that you were confidently shit talking about 30 seconds later. So right here, fuck you, eat my whole ass. 20 seconds of Googling would have saved you this embarrassment, and fuck you, be a better human being, or we're gonna continue our relationship this way, you piece of shit. Fuck you.
I don't know if you would call this. I don't know if you would call this a relationship, but one,
eat my ass, buddy.
It's funny to me that you're telling me not to police. You're policing me on how I conduct myself, and saying that the problem is me policing things. This is so freaking petty and ridiculous. Yes, I get that they needed to change the thing. That has nothing to do with the fact that the source of the water is what initially contaminated their freaking pipes. Like, the source was a problem. They had been using the same pipes in these houses initially. If you would like to, we can have a conversation. We can have a conversation on this subject in and of itself. I promise you. Yeah, but I'm not now, obviously.
Yeah, I know. But it just like, it feels like you guys are literally saying the same thing, right? But emphasizing different parts, right? You're saying that the water source was the problem because they made the switch, and then Counterpoints is saying that the source of the actual poisoning was the pipes that were corroded because the water source was changed. That's it.
Right.
You guys are just emphasizing strongly
are two different things.
Yeah, I know, but like, they work in conjunction, right? If one didn't happen, then the other wouldn't have happened, right? So
right, and I'm saying what the initial problem was, and he's.
I think you guys should both found like a militia to like resolve this issue. You guys
whole
have
whole ass
militia. Yeah, the whole ass militia, and then we'll have the.
It's just insane to me because this nigga gets indignant literally every time he's not talking. It's not about policing somebody. It's that, like, literally we'll be in the middle of having a conversation, and this nigga he acts like a straight.
Racial slurs. Calm down.
No, please, Prime. Hold on. Oh my God, I gotta talk right now. I'm gonna kill something. He does that all the freaking time. Like, literally, and it's like, yo, we can have a freaking conversation, but can you relax ever?
Okay.
Nigga,
in fairness, you suck quite often. And second, you literally said that an opinion that you basically were agreeing on a lot of things was disgusting, that Mad Lad and Counterpoint said. So I understand him getting frustrated when you come at it with that type of language. And you do suck way more than anyone on this panel.
Oh boy. Okay.
So,
I value your opinion.
Oh boy.
I know you don't.
Great.
Personally, I think Doobie sucks the most.
Great.
Trust me, it's good for viewers anyways, Prime. If you have Fnatic on, you need to get a productive
well, that's true. That's true. People pretend like they don't like it, but then like the numbers go up every single time.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go. All right, we still got time for this topic, so I still want to talk about it.
So the point was.
No.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, so the point of this whole thing is we're trying to decide whether it's okay for a population to engage in vigilante recourse to solve their problems, right? Now, I'm one of those hypocrites that you were referencing earlier, Rob. I think, I'm going to say publicly, this is terrible, we shouldn't allow this sort of thing, but like privately, I'm always cheering on the folks who are like, getting their own in a society where they can't, right? And I think the solution here, I want to talk about the solutions more so than like whether it's okay or not. I think the solution here is that we just need to address the excesses of our economic system. And I think we need to actually focus on what those safety nets should look like. So like the excesses would be things like businesses destroying products that they can't sell. And I think safety nets would be things like and not even like even the minimum wage, but like just a UBI, right? Like if people could just have money, then there wouldn't be any of this.
Like, for example, like, is anyone here going to say with a straight face that everyone that loots these places is destitute?
No, not everyone, but in like this case of like the Louis Vuitton store where like a fucking mob went in, Like, I'm pretty sure that like, even outside of them being destitute, like, we understand that crime happens at higher rates in high poverty areas. Like, that's just data that we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but
Okay.
this is, Inspector, you're the one that I really wanted to address this to, because you said, well, this stuff's going to inevitably happen if we have poverty. Look, poverty will always exist. And yes, you're right. On average, that means that people are more likely to commit all crimes, not just crimes to get money, but maybe crimes like drug-related crimes, sex-related crimes, all sorts of violence. All of those crimes, you're right, in areas with higher poverty, particularly high poverty areas with high population, or you're likely to see increase. However, what we're talking about specifically with this topic, we don't see happening around much of this country. We don't see this mass looting. It occurs in very specific situations, and it occurs when we have prosecutors that seem to decriminalize this sort of behavior. So the first step to stop this sort of behavior, which is why I asked, is start punishing the people that do it.
Where was this behavior decriminalized?
In California.
California?
It hasn't legally been decriminalized. What he's saying is that since the DAs don't really prosecute for this shit, it's essentially decriminalized, which is basically true. I mean, that's how else would... There's no other way that, like, 80 people would be brazen enough to all go rob a store at once in broad day. Like the retail theft rates in California are absolutely nuts.
Okay.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, just to be clear for everybody, the reason for that, Pan, just to really quickly hit on what the decriminalization thing is, because in California, I think thefts under $950 aren't considered like a felony, if I remember correctly. So it's like effectively like decriminalized. So you have tons of people walking into fucking Walgreens and taking shit off the shelves and walking off with it. And as a result, a lot of these companies are closing up locations because they don't want to be in a place where people just walking in and taking out, walking away with their stock for like willy nilly. Right. So yeah, that's correct.
And just be clear, like, this is why I love a lot of my left-leaning friends, right, and big government friends. I don't think that you're an immoral person for having these sort of ideas. You see a poor person, you say, we want policies that help these people, but you have to be realistic, because you can make the argument, well, we want to decriminalize any theft under $1,000, and because poor people are more likely to steal. So this will help them out, net benefit. But in reality, what happens is it leads to a chain of events that ends up hurting poor people even more, because then people say, hell, even if I get caught, which basically these companies tell their employees, don't even call the police, because the police don't show up unless it's a big theft anymore. But even if you get caught, your fine is less than the average amount that you could steal each time you go in. So you'll still take that risk every day, which then causes these stores to leave, which loses economic and retail opportunities for the very poor people that live in these communities. The reality is, if you're in San Francisco and you're working at a Fortune 500 company and you have a $5 million house, you probably don't give a shit that Target left. You don't care. Who cares?
Yeah,
the lady that's raising 3 kids that works at Target.
I'm not
the lady that
saying
makes to buy milk for her daughter. You know?
I'm not saying that Target leaving is the solution. Like, if these companies are actually experiencing theft at a higher rate due to this decriminalization law, to the point where they are leaving and it is hurting the economy, I am fine with, like, recriminalizing that. But I would like to fix, like, the frankly punitive justice system in this country. But that's a whole other conversation. I guess what I'm getting at here is that what we don't seem to ever be solving for in these situations is the fact that there are going to be some people who commit at least more crime due to the fact that they are poor. Like, people who live in high poverty areas commit more crime. So if you simply not necessarily give them cash payments, but earlier also with the education thing that I was talking about, I wasn't saying give all schools an equal amount of money. You focus on the ones that are underfunded, right? Because those are the ones that fucking need it. And those are the kids that fucking need it. Because
we can do that by giving money to the kids instead of the area code, so that each student has a certain amount of money, basically, that they're allocated that they get to the school. So all people,
the charter
all
schools
area
already
codes
do that and have a higher rate of segregation than we did at the
Not
end
true.
of the 1960s. So yes, they do. Oh boy,
charter schools serve more minorities than public schools, at least as a percentage. Obviously,
well, it depends on how good the charter school is. There's a lot of them that
on how exactly. Thank you, Matt.
I mean,
on average,
someone who's
obviously it depends on the state. Obviously.
I've taught at a bunch. I can compare public schools with the charter schools that I've seen personally, and my personal experience says that I would rather send my children to public schools. Now, that's just a personal anecdote. I don't have the numbers. Spectre's way better at looking things up, so I'm going to let him.
So here's the thing: is that there's some really great charter schools, but they're full of white kids. So, like, yeah, I mean,
that's not true. The numbers are pretty. I could look them up. The numbers are pretty. Please, segregation's irrelevant to this conversation. Like, if I'm someone who lives in the let me explain. If I'm in the inner city and I go send my kid to a public school that's 90% black and he's getting a shit education, or I could send him to a charter school that's 100% black and he gets a fucking awesome education and then goes off to college and becomes incredibly wealthy, I don't give a shit that there weren't a couple white kids around him. I don't care. I'm more interested in every child having an opportunity to have good education. And the reality is, when it comes to charter schools, we can see that on average, minorities that go to charter schools do far better than most of these inner city schools that have an abysmal.
It actually is true.
What?
I thought
Why
that was
wouldn't,
true.
why wouldn't it be
Originally.
true even with the variables that you were talking about?
I'm sorry.
What was the point?
No, but my point is, like, even if you were saying, like so for instance, like I was a school resource officer at a fucking charter school. So if I was a school resource officer at a charter school and they were able to hand select the kids that they were able to teach, even if those kids were like minority students, why wouldn't they be doing better long term, even if they were basically like intentionally selecting who they were going to do based off of like academic proficiency? The thing you objected to. Yeah, the thing you objected to would still work within your framework. Well, okay, so basically they have to serve a certain segment of the community that's like baked in, right? But at the same time, they have a certain amount of vouchers for people who are like outside of the community, outside of the zip code, in order to allow in, and they have those slots. Typically, they have to do a lottery, but yeah, they can also pick some of the students that they basically allow in based off of like pleading cases.
Receive additional funding based off of graduation rates, so they select for the best students they can find who are already performing well most of the time.
Well, right, okay.
So
some
data, I got some
Sorry,
data that I could show you. 2017 report found that nationwide per student K-12 education funding from all sources, local, state, and federal, is similar on average at the districts attended by poor students, which get 2.5% more money than the non-poor student districts. But the Brookings Institution in 2007 revealed that on average, poor and minority students receive between 1% to 2% more resources than non-poor or white students. Older studies examining school funding have found a similar conclusion, including those from the U.S. Department of Education, Urban Institute, and the Heritage Foundation.
Okay, Rob,
Yeah,
but real quickly.
So
Rob, the reason why they have similar things from the state is because typically, like, the at least in the state of Florida, as far as I understand it, the money goes into a pool, and then a certain amount of money is allocated per student, regardless of district, and the schools report how many students they have. Right? That's how the money is allocated. But the reason why I still think that the property tax argument is valid is because the additional programs, like after-school programs, sports teams, like all that kind of stuff, that's going to be funded by the wealth of the local zip code. So as a result, the things like early school care, after school care, sports teams, what do they call it? Like little brother or older brothers, older sisters. I forget what the fuck they call that program or whatever. But the mentorship programs, those are all going to be more likely to be found in richer neighborhoods. So even if they're spending $8K on a white student in the nice side of town, and they're spending $8K on a black student in the rough side of town, that doesn't really actually reflect the quality of education that they're going for. And finally, with the charter schools, if they can select the kind of student that they have, then basically either through lottery or who they accept into the school or additional disciplinary actions that they're allowed to take as a charter school, then they can kind of make their numbers look better, because it's basically a state-funded private school, because they have more flexibility when it comes to discipline, who attends the school, uniforms, and also curriculum. So that's what I think Spectre is kind of pushing at is, if you just say charter schools and school choice, then what's going to end up happening is just like a whole bunch of kids are going to be left behind because nobody's going to give a fuck about them.
To be clear, that's just specifically your state. In my state, the charter schools have to let you in, like, basically regardless, if you can drive there. So, like, I mean, maybe it sounds like what you have in Florida.
But what about capacity, though?
But
what about capacity?
What about? I mean, well, okay. Well, what do you mean? What about capacity?
So you can use like an administrative capacity in order to use discretion. You can say that based off of the zip code or whatever, we're going to admit all of these kids in the into the school, and then if we have like 20% capacity, because you can only have like 20 to 30 students per classroom, if a kid comes from a rough family and you know that it's a rough family and it's a disciplinary case and they're out of zip code, so they're not technically entitled to an education at your charter school, then you can say no, fuck you, and as a result, that has a cascading effect.
They are technically entitled to
and
it.
we actually
I had to take a bus an hour and a half, to get to the area to
Can I see the
get to
study
the charter
that
school. There was no
the Heritage Foundation, which is hilarious to me, by the way, because they've been pushing school choice for like 4 years now, harder than any other conservative think tank.
Sure. Would you like the U.S. Department of Education
that's
study and the Urban Institute could agree with them as well?
Yeah, it's ironic. Sure, it's ironic that this line of argument needs to be against charter schools, because the reality is that,
I love charter schools.
Oh, okay. Well, the reality is that the vast majority of minorities in this country, even Democrat minorities, support charter schools and school choice, right? So yeah, it seems like, and I'm sure they've heard these concerns. Hey, these schools are going to let in the white people, right? But even with that concern on the table, they want school choice. They want charter schools. So
Well, it's
I don't know.
because they know they can
To
leverage.
respond a little bit, because I think
Mhm.
Connor was, kind of pushing back on what I was saying. So to respond a little, one, I don't think you're right. I don't think you're wrong about when it comes to extracurricular and sort of support network outside of school funding. Certainly, if you're in an area that is wealthier, even if the amount of money your government is spending on your student is $5,000 less than the amount they're spending on an inner city student, yeah, absolutely. The most important thing is your family safety, your family support, and things like that. But certainly other things, more extracurricular activities and extracurricular groups, absolutely. But that's not a problem of just throwing more funding at schools, which is exactly what I'm talking about. Secondly, the problem is many of these inner city schools, regardless of how much money we send, are fucking war zones. And they have people working at them that, whether it be their fault or not, aren't the best teachers and aren't the best educators. And that fucking sucks. It's not fair. It's not just a matter of, well, let's just if we just send $10,000 more per student there, that's not going to help the problem if we don't solve the fundamental things that we are teaching and the administrators and teachers that have there. I think that the curriculum is shit, not just in inner cities, but around this country, which is why we can see the United States, when it comes to K through 12 education, spends more money than almost any country in the world. And yet the quality of our education on average, both in poor and more wealthy schools, is declining rapidly, including the countries that spend far less on it. So what we're teaching and things like that are terrible. I don't have to tell you which party has a stranglehold on the education system and who they support, but neither here nor there.
Which state, right?
But you think the
Oh,
Democrats have a stranglehold on the education
Why do
system
we-
when Republicans are in power?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's what
I
I'm
think the
saying.
Democrats,
how does it
absolutely, the
work?
teachers
Please
union.
explain this.
May I
Hold on,
respond?
wait, I got it. So let's talk about the fact. That if we look in places like the South, where you have like all of this legislation that's like clearly controlling what can be taught, right? We see all this pushback happening against CRT. Then you have all of the historic, when it came to the way the Daughters of the Confederacy, how they got together and like started drafting and started shaping all of their rules for what sort of textbooks can can be shown at a school, which directly controlled why the people in the South don't believe that the Civil War had anything to do with freaking slavery. So like the idea that like Democrats are having a stranglehold on like K through 12 education, which is what you were referring to, is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely not true. But what you can say is when it comes to like more left-leaning people having a stranglehold on like on college universities, yeah, I'll give you that. But K through 12, that's absolutely ridiculous. It really, really, really depends on which state you're in, because obviously in freaking Texas, they had that case in which they literally had in their textbooks that people that were slaves were what they call the migrant workers. It's not the case.
And not just that, I would
Okay,
also
why
add
does it
that the
matter?
Texas school board actually gets to decide what
Textbooks.
because
okay,
what
it's not just
textbooks
a
from
matter of,
Texas gets shipped over
right.
to
It's
all
not
the-
Why
just a
does it
matter.
matter
So
what
the type
party?
of curriculum, curriculum
I-
that's put forth by by the state is only a small portion of how the education gets taught. The affiliation and the beliefs of the teachers and of the unions that control the teachers is far more important, because just because you have to use a certain textbook, I had this happen all the time. For example, I had a teacher in high school that was a biology teacher who was a creationist. He was adamant that Christianity is the real religion and that we were all created. And he told us up front that was true. But he said we have to talk about evolution and things like that. Yet he colored conversations of evolution constantly with his beliefs in Christianity. Now, the curriculum said he had to teach out of this book, and he did. He met that curriculum, but his personal preferences as a teacher had more influence on that education than the pure textbook that we're using. The same is true when it comes to education all around this country. We can see it's not even close. These teachers' unions are part and parcel. In fact, they're the most powerful union probably when it comes to support for the Democratic Party. We could see the decisions they made. We could see the individual teachers and the political affiliations that they
How did we land here?
It's so crazy that you would Are you just going to gish Gallop for 10 minutes? It's crazy
Real quick.
that you say that when we recognize that the vast majority. I believe you. I believe that you believe that. But it's so crazy.
That's disgusting. Your points are disgusting. I'm black. I'm a victim. We get it,
And
man.
we do
You
this
don't
in
have
like
to
2
use
weeks or
that.
something.
You don't
This
have
isn't
to
on
use
education.
it.
It's really
Connor's whole ass.
It's really
His whole
crazy. It's
ass.
really crazy.
Okay,
It's really
shut up.
crazy to me.
Rob,
Thank you. It's really crazy to me that you would sit here and try to pretend as if, like, yes, like, that you would make this point that, yes, the teachers are going to have a direct impact on people's students. So who do you think are going to be the people teaching in these incredibly red states that are like super duper Republican? Clearly, in those cases, those teachers are going to be Republican. And guess what? The school boards in those states are going to be Republican. Let's not forget about how all of these southern states, immediately after Brown versus Board of Education got passed, immediately started creating all of these private schools and pupil placement laws and all of these things in order to insulate and inculcate their white children. This has been done for God knows how long. We still see that there's crazy segregation in southern states right now as far as school attendance is concerned. It's de facto segregation, but it's still happening. So the idea, I mean, goodness, I think it was in the state of Mississippi, they were saying less than 10% of Black students were in non-segregated schools, in the sense that all of their students, all their fellow students were all Black. It's still happening all around the country because you typically go to the school that's zoned around where you live. And in most of these cases, we still see how crazy segregation is in the United States. It's not legal segregation, but we have de facto segregation. So yeah, these people are still influencing them. The idea that Democrats are having an impact on Southern schools when it comes to education is laughable when we know that less than 18% of people can identify the Civil War today. Less than 18% of high school seniors can identify
Gish galloping here. Sounds like some gish galloping.
I want to try to respond. Doobie.
Yeah, go ahead, respond. Respond to anything I said. You weren't listening.
Sure, I will. I will respond. You're fundamentally wrong.
You'll get to. I promise you will. I promise. Write it down. So I want to make sure you get everything.
You do have to. I like that you covered for Fanatic. You have to. He can't do it himself. So
no. Doobie's got to talk. All right, Doobie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to respond to anything Fanatic or Rob are saying. But Rob, I just want to ask you: Can you stop bringing up Fanatic's race when you're responding to him, or doing this I'm black, I'm a victim thing?
He's
it's
a
really
perpetual
strange.
race grifter, and it's been in everything he said.
Hold on.
I don't give a shit.
He hasn't brought up his race at all in this. I don't know why you keep saying I'm black.
Did you say the word
victim.
bitch? That's gendered. Could you not say that?
Hold on.
Yes, bitch. I'll say what I want.
I don't think.
Especially when it's bad faith actors like Fanatic.
I don't think there's any reason to continually bring up the race of another person on the panel. It's really fucking weird.
Yes, when his arguments are centered around him and his ideas of being a victim because of his race,
that hasn't been the case at all.
Yes, I could do
that.
Secondly, I don't give a shit what you want to
He's making the same arguments that other people
have someone like Fanatic go on there
his race at all.
I don't give a fuck. I don't care about my finances. Like I'm not going to listen to you or Fanatic try to boss and tell me how I'm going to talk. I don't give a shit.
Okay, can I do something productive?
Let's knock it off. Great. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh God, it's making so fucking difficult. I don't know why you guys making this. Oh my God, you just fucking hate it sometimes.
More content.
Can I do something productive?
Oh, okay, yeah, do something productive.
You may speak.
Okay, so Rob, the concern, which I think is a fair concern, is that while school choice can be a solution for individuals, and kind of like Doobie was saying, that basically it probably would be preferred by a lot of people of color because it represents opportunity to get their kids good education and then get them out of the shitty situations that they're in. The very real concern that I share with Spectre is that when you individualize systems and you just say hey, get good, drive 2 hours out of zip code in order to do it, and if you really care, then you'll invest in your kids' education and all that kind of stuff, is that there's a bunch of kids who basically get left behind. And as a result, regardless of whether or not the funding is currently equitable for education itself, there's a whole bunch of situations in which public education is not equitable. So if you're talking about discipline, or if you're talking about uniforms, or if you're talking about extracurriculars, or if you're talking about any of the things that I talked about that would oftentimes be paid for by the parents, either through property taxes or just in general wealth and donations, then we're kind of fucked in a few respects, and we're worried that a lot of kids are going to get left behind. So that's where, for me, I would want a dual solution. Number one, I don't care about if school choice makes it better. What's actually interesting is No Child Left Behind got a lot of fucking shit talk about it. Bush's policy, it actually broke up a lot of really toxic and shitty schools and made them better. And then also, so if it takes a combination solution of individualization of opportunity but also investment in schools, then I think that's the ultimate centrist position that we could invest in that would actually not make anybody happy but would actually address the problem. And I think that's the problem, is we keep going at everything half-assed.
What we're advocating would increase funding for inner city schools, though, right? Because right now, on average, they're getting less per pupil than the students in rich suburbs and rich area codes. So this would increase funding for these poor schools.
Wait, how would it
evenly
increase the
distributed.
funding if it's school choice? Who would choose
Because
to go to the
you
poor schools?
you tie the money to the student.
Convenience. Are you kidding me? So many people would just choose to go to the school that's closest to them. We have that here.
Yeah, most people go to the school that's closest to them, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah, because convenience. So
I mean, just by default,
Why
that's
would-
what they get assigned in their district, dudes. What are you saying?
So what?
What
This
is
is
the
the
way
way the money.
I don't know where you are.
to the poor schools.
Spectre, this is the way the money would be divvied out. Let's say that we'd say you live in inner city Chicago versus you live in, a really affluent neighborhood in New York, right? Right now, the government gives the school districts money based on the amount of students that are there in the situation. What Problematic Pan's saying is instead of giving that money to the schools, you give that money directly to the families of the student and say, now you get to choose where they go to school. Now, Connor talked about a problem of scarcity, right? But if we change drastically how this system occurred, then we would see competition in the market where after a few years, you would see, wow, there's an opportunity if we start a charter school in this particular area that's being ill-served, that we're going to get a big portion of that money. And so then when you have competition and you have people saying, competition like, hey, send your student to our school because we're better. We are putting out better reading scores, better math scores. Then parents will direct their kids there and the money they're getting there, which will make the schools that have the more
They'll have
effective
to move
administrators
there,
and more
right?
effective educators
And
receive
they'll have
more
to-
money.
okay, I
why
get
would they
the
have
point.
to move there?
And they'll have to
You
move
keep
there.
saying this. No, you don't have to move.
Okay, so you don't have to move, but all the parents are trying to get into one school. What is that going to do for the price of that one school? Like if it's competition based, right?
But then other schools, if there's a
can't charge
glut,
more.
right? The price is like you can't charge more per student or anything like that, right? Like, and again, you're going to go to a school that could be afforded based on the stipend that the government's giving you. That's already a problem in the status quo, though. For example, like if you're independently wealthy, you could pay to send your kid to a private school that charges more than the charter schools that we're talking about. But the charter schools are only going to be effective coming up in these areas if the people in those areas can afford it. So it wouldn't make sense to put a charter school in inner city Chicago to service poor Black communities in Chicago and say, we're going to charge $40,000 a year. That wouldn't make sense. Instead, they'll charge an amount that the government's sending in money per each student.
Whoa, hold on. So if nobody's going to move schools and everybody's just going to keep on going to the school that's closest to them anyway, then why do we do this?
Everybody, but a large portion are, right? One heavy consideration in what school you go to is proximity. That's always going to be a heavy consideration under school choice, under any system. Obviously, it's preferable to go to a school that's within walking distance than to bus an hour and a half to school each day, right? That's always going to be a factor.
Why do we see such disparate outcomes with these schools now that do get funding to like bring in disadvantaged students?
Because they don't give a shit. Because the system sucks. Because the administrators and the teachers suck. Because the environment sucks. Because we continue to see that these programs, these education programs, they keep saying, well, we need more money. We need more money. They're
Yes,
consistently low.
Do you understand why I'm saying that they won't get more money if it's competition based? Because parents won't want to send their kids there and it'll just stay shitty at that school and it'll keep on getting
Yes, then
better at the
shitty
other
schools
schools?
will fail. Perfect. Shitty schools fail. Now those kids are going to schools that are more successful. Sounds good to me.
Not going to
gotta throw in
schools
that he's
because you don't
Jewish
even
and
have
also a victim, though.
classrooms. Holy shit.
Just FYI.
What's that, Doobie?
I said you should maybe throw in that Spectre's Jewish and also a victim. Maybe that.
Hey,
Does he have a
Spectre,
Jewish
you're a
slur
Jew
in
and
his
you're a
pronoun
victim.
name? Does he have a Jewish
That's a
slur in
really
his
good one.
pronoun name there?
So
That would
let me
make it
ask
much
you
more
this real quick.
rhetorically effective.
Hey, it's really funny because can we say good that no schools will shut down? But God, we know how many different schools that have been like incredibly underfunded and have like persisted for decades, from like my mother's day till now, that still exist. It's not like they just shut the schools down. It's just they just keep the schools open and just expect the terrible results, and the community suffer as a result of it. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, that's the
now then
concern.
give parents the option to send their kids to better schools.
Yeah, so and when we're talking about in these impoverished neighborhoods, like, so a lot of times, like a parent moving their child to a different school, it like requires like extra, like it requires extra work. Sometimes these people don't have mobility, like no transportation. We've obviously seen we've done like things like busing, but there were some negative ramifications for that because children at this point now, like in some cases, had to spend an extra like hour like commuting to school and from and it's school day is already 8 hours. So then when you start talking about like 10 hours, like just for education, that like ends up getting in the way for they have to wake up earlier, which can disrupt their sleep. They have less time with their families. There's all sorts of other problems that come with that. So and then of course
that's a non-unique problem.
Parental inability to respond to some of the problems that happen at school that also creates a problem.
Listen, we should just invest in all schools. It's not even that fucking expensive. Like seriously,
what do you mean we should just invest in all schools, Connor? I don't think people understand. Per pupil, we spend second most out of every country in the world besides Norway. We can't just keep clearly, we spend so much per pupil. It's
okay, but let me tell you what I mean. Let me tell you what I mean. I made the point. He interrupted. Spectre, hold on. He fucking. I said something. He objected. I'm gonna say it again. All right. I get what the fuck you're saying, but we are the richest, most powerful fucking country. I have no idea whether or not the fucking stats that you're talking about include inflation or fucking money. If they do, awesome. But at the same time, we got endless fucking cash for stupid fucking shit like, I don't know, the war in Afghanistan, which was fucking $50 billion a year, and universal pre-K would be $26 billion a year. So basically what I would say is that even if it's fucking expensive, we just bite the fucking bullet and we say, hey, what guys, it's fucking pennies on the dollar. It's 0.03% of the fucking federal budget. We're going to go ahead and fund universal fucking pre-K, and we're just going to eat the fucking cost because it's important to invest in the next generation so the world doesn't suck ass.
Schools are funded by state. What percentage of the state budget do you think is generally allocated towards education? What percentage?
No, I don't give a fuck. I should say the feds should fucking fund it. The states should administer it, and the feds should fund it.
So it should be federal funded too?
No, yeah, sure. Fucking school, like,
okay, well, if you're going to say that, like, I mean, there's a different argument against that, but my state already spends 60% of their state income tax, or not state income tax, state tax revenue, period, on education. We can't continuously increase this. I mean, obviously,
no, but that's not the problem.
Listen, get good, problematic. That's what I'm saying. Get good.
No,
right?
that's not the problem. The problem isn't just the total amount of funding. The problem is that, like, the funding is not, like, equal across different, like, groups, right? So you'll see Black people, like, since, like, a lot of times, like, education is funded by property taxes, and so we can, like, just look at the raw number and say, look how much our state is paying towards this education. But that education, it's not equally giving that towards, like, the Black people. You'll find Black people in crazily overcrowded classrooms. They will have less funding for their individual classrooms, but when we average it out, then it's like, oh yeah, it's a good number. But in reality, it's just incredibly disparate.
To be clear, I agree, and that's why I want it to be based on the student, not based on the area code. What I'm just saying is that we can't increase our spending by that much because we're already spending such a large percentage of our budget on it. And for all the stuff like the war in Afghanistan and shit, I don't think we could afford that shit either. But that's another discussion.
A better solution
if I can correct
a better solution that would fix this entire thing is if instead of us like going and saying, oh, we'll fund it off of property taxes, we can still keep the funding. We can still keep the funding off of property taxes, but what we could instead do is then collect a pool from the entire state and then divvy out those funds depending on which per student. Right. And so then that way you guarantee even like the places that are overcrowded that they now will have better funding, and the places that don't need it as much won't have it. And it's like that would fix like these disparate levels of funding.
That's what I'm at. That's literally what we do.
That's what we're advocating for.
We don't do that. We don't.
That's what we're advocating for. Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm advocating for, at least.
That's the status quo. Again, I'll cite the studies again.
Let me. I don't think that's the status quo. That's the status quo.
I've cited the studies.
We don't have school.
Oh my God, one at a time.
Go ahead.
So let me cite the studies again. Right?
Again,
2017 report found nationwide K-12 education.
You're not answering the question. We all heard.
I am answering the question. You
let him respond. Oh my God, you gotta let him respond.
He already said that this isn't a response.
Fanatic, this is what the fuck I'm talking about. Shut the fuck up. Let him talk.
I'm asking him what state. I don't want to hear just a random thing that he already read, that we already heard, that doesn't address this. I'm asking you what state.
That was an average of all 50 states.
But it can't be an average of all 50 words.
Why can't it? On average, in the United States, we spend K-12 education. Poor students in minority neighborhoods get on average $12,961. Non-poor students in white areas traditionally get $12,640. When it comes to the taxes that go to people, in 1920, local taxes were responsible for, that's property taxes, were responsible for 83% of funding for schools. That number has lowered to 45%. State taxes, which is exactly what Fanatic is talking about. Instead of just using local property tax, we should have a big pool of money from the state that then goes into these communities. That is what the status quo is. 47% of all funding comes from state sources. 8% comes from federal sources. So the status quo is property taxes pay less than 50%, and the state and federal money is going to equalize out the places that have low property taxes that aren't funding their schools that much, to the point that on average per student, kids in these inner city schools are getting paid slightly more than those not in the inner city schools. That's what Fanatic called for, and it's not solving the problem at all.
That's not what I'm asking for. So if you even if you take cases like California, sure, you have a slightly higher average, right? 58% of the funding for education comes from state taxes. 32%, which is still a very significant, almost 1/3 of the education is funded by local taxes, and that deficit right there is enough to create a crazy disparity that would create these problems in the education system. Still, do you agree with that?
No, because
okay, so you just don't know how math works.
Listen, let me finish, right? Like, I'll tell you why. Because you're assuming that state money goes equally to each school. But if it's, and I don't know specifically about California, but that same thing you could say about the national numbers that I just showed. However, that's assuming that the state and federal money is equally being divvied out school to school. That's not how it happens. What happens is those state and federal dollars go to the schools that aren't getting a lot of the property tax dollars. So they end up having more money per student in the inner city schools than in the schools that aren't in the inner city. Even though, so look at it this way. Maybe you only get per student with property tax in the inner city $1,000 per student, but in the wealthier areas, you get $10,000. Well, the state and federal taxes come in and make up that glut to where we normally see per student, the inner cities get more. And there are still huge problems. Is any of us going to argue that there aren't huge problems in inner city schools?
Wait, can I get a source for that? It's not that I don't agree with you, but like I'd like a source for that. That would be really surprising. That would be extremely surprising to me.
So the other problem is that if we look and we see like California, the way California is done is that like they end up doing it by district, right? But even within district, you can have incredibly segregated areas. So yes, you can have so the funding will be equal on every single district or whatever, but then the districts themselves will start enacting these incredibly racist policies they will overfund like the white schools and still underfund the black schools. So there's still this disparate funding.
Show me the data.
So
oh my god, okay. I can find that.
All right, so why don't we give
I put the links by the way in the Discord.
The last point, and then we'll wrap things up. But we can continue this on the open walk-on panel right after this. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I forgot who's making this argument, but the school system and the problem with the education system isn't a lack of funding. That is like extremely apparent. Or even if it is a lack of funding, that accounts for a very, very small percentage of the issue. The real issue is a fucking shitty curriculum. You have like problems with tenure and stuff like that. There has to be like a more holistic approach towards education. There has to be a holistic revamp of education. Otherwise, you're gonna keep on going to the same issues. If you keep throwing money at this, increasing the quantity of this shitty education will not change anything. You have to increase the quality of education. That's it.
Okay. Let's all right. So to my audience, we are going to continue on to the open walk-on panel right after this. I'm going to give exit to all these individuals, but we still have more content for you, so stick right there. If you haven't done so yet, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on, because we do this 6 nights a week. Want to make sure that you are around for that. You've missed some great content already, but you can fix that. Hit that follow button right now to remediate that. Okay. Also, exclamation social and chat. For our social media, Twitter is where you'll find our channel updates. Discord is where we'll have all our conversations, including the open walk-on panel, which is coming very quickly. Right. So if you want to be part of that, again, jump into our Discord or just be part of the community in general. We got a thriving community in Discord. It's a fun community. Come in, join up. You'll love it. All right. And then finally, we have YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. YouTube is where you'll find the bots. You won't find them here. You'll find them there. So go to YouTube. And remember, we also have YouTube membership. So it's another way to support the channel if you can. It'd be a great way to make sure that we continue this on into the future. So sign up for YouTube membership if you can. Hit that join button. All right. Again, I'm going to give an outro to these individuals, and then we'll continue on. The stream does not end. Just an outro, but the stream is not over. All right. Starting with Mad Latin. I think the image behind him tells you exactly how he feels. Oh,
that's really, yeah. I was looking for something a little bit more blood sporty, but I didn't want it to, imply that anybody deserves to get punched in the face. Considering our last panel. But no, I think actually tonight was pretty good overall. Like there was like some screaming, But like if you like tune it out and pretend that there was no screaming, I think we all had some like fantastic points.
I mean-
and it gave me a lot to consider, right? So this is good. I'm gonna post my things. Buy my book. It's out. Amazon has like this algorithm thing that like if you like click on the link and just check out my book on Amazon, they'll buy more copies of it or something. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but if you click on my link tree and then click on that Amazon link, I would be like grateful. Follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitch. Thanks for Evo. Thank you so much for saying I win a panel. I appreciate it. I worked really hard on this. I'm planning on streaming more often. And Rob, I hope when you get back on YouTube and you eventually turn this into a video, I hope you title it something like blah 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 blah. Liberals didn't bring their best, except Mad Latin buy his chess book. Like, feel free
That's
to
the
like
point.
put that in there. Like that would be like
The title.
perfect.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Thank you so much, Mad Latin. Also, a very fantastic and helpful mod in our community. Thank you for that. Next, we have Lorenzo. Lorenzo, thank you for making to your first Reverie. Much appreciated, Lorenzo. Tell them
Thank you
about yourself.
thank you so much for having me on Prime. My links to everything are in chat. Currently, it is 4:30 a.m., so I apologize for the lack of energy. But yeah, thanks again for Prime. Thanks again to Prime for having us on, and thank you to Counterpoints, Rob, Fanatic, Spectre, Mad Lad, and Problematic Pen and Doobie for like the excellent conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, our VIP, and we're always so grateful to have him, right? Especially when you get those veins a popping in his forehead. So, counterpoints. Counterpoints, thank you for coming through.
Yeah, people in chat better be like donating because I need some fucking blood pressure meds after this shit. So, all right. Anyways, my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I identify as centrist center right. I'm a law enforcement veteran and a military veteran. I do love yelling, but I also like talking about interesting ideas. There's kind of a shame that we have to cover up smart ideas and screaming. But I'm Irish, so I love it. So if we can trick the audience into thinking about complex subjects by yelling at them aggressively at each other, then I'll just pay that social price happily. So Prime, thank you for having me as always, and everybody have an excellent night.
Thank you. Next, Spectre, another mod in our community, and another a good person that we're happy to have around. Spectre, you survived.
I did somehow. I do every week that I come on. I enjoy it, and yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'm Spectre. I stream. I'm starting to do video essays on YouTube. I should have one out here in like a couple weeks at most. And yeah, I'm also on Twitter. I'll throw that in the chat too. Thanks for having me, Prime.
Thank you. Next we have Rob Noor. Again, Rob Noor we haven't had in a long time. Rob Noor, as always, should make a splash in this channel, right? Putting goddamn liberals in their place, right? A conservative hero. I this is what I hear out on the streets. So Rob Noor, thank you for coming through.
Don't tell your audience I'm really a left winger that just wants to increase your viewership by coming on here and playing a troll. That's the reality of it. Look, there were good issues that were discussed. I think the usual suspects derail shit. It's funny how that happens, but that's okay. Everyone here made good points. Everyone really did on certain issues. So I enjoyed myself. I don't have any hard feelings for anything anyone ever says to me, anything like that. I would like to talk to Fanatic about a couple things. If he would humor me either on this panel or we could go over to his show or my show. It doesn't matter. Everyone else, thanks for having me here. Hopefully we'll see y'all on the flip side.
Cool. Fanatic. Our branches have been extended. All right. It's a beautiful thing. Love to see it. Fanatic, thanks for being here. Fanatic, will you take that branch or will you set it on fire?
No, of course not. I don't know. I'm actually blown away. I thought he was too much of a coward to have a one-on-one conversation because all of our previous ones were 2v2. But hey, you know what? You can learn something new every day, and maybe Rob Noor isn't a coward. Is the thing that I learned today. So yeah, we can definitely have a conversation. What do they call that? Poisoning the well before we have it, though. Anyway, listen, you guys. What I am is a musician. You see that piano behind me? It's not just for show. I'm probably gotta be in the top 3 pianists on Twitch, and definitely the best ear on Twitch by a long shot. But I'm also a composer, and I composed a song, and it's actually going to be releasing on the 15th. Here's a link that you can pre-save, and it was I'm not in this chat. Yeah, and you can click this, and when it drops on the 15th, it'll automatically play it for you on Spotify. Of course, it'll be everywhere else as well, but I linked it there. You can check out the rest of my music on Spotify, just under the name Fanatic. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/MrFanatic, YouTube, Ask Fanatic, where I do all sorts of stuff, debates and commentary on niggas like Kevin Samuels and idiots like Jordan Peterson. He's not an idiot, but he just says a lot of stupid stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know where to find me. I'm always down for one-on-one conversations. I think those are obviously a lot more productive, and anybody who knows my resume know how I get down in those. Check me out. Peace.
Thank you. Next. Oh, and of course, if you guys want to have a one-on-one conversation, I would love to host that. That sounds like top tier content. But especially if you can keep it civil, but you know, hopes and dreams, right? They get shattered. Let's go to Problematic Pan, right? Who's a dreamboat himself, right? And he's still here. So Pan, thank you as well for being here. Giving a perspective, it's always valuable. Tell the world about yourself.
Yeah, not only is my perspective always valuable, it's also always correct. So I'm glad to help share with the community.
Say that.
If you're interested in chess like Mad Lad is, I completely smoked Mad Lad 2 games in a row last night. So
he beat my troll opening.
Yeah,
oh my god!
2 games
it's
in
fine.
a row.
All right, no, it's fine.
This is my closing. Please be respectful. So come follow me at Problematic Pan. I'm looking at you, everyone in chat, right there. I'm gonna start calling you out by names if you don't come over and follow me. But thanks to be real. Thanks to everyone for coming. It was exciting. Yeah, I guess that's all it was. I had fun. See you guys.
People, seriously, give Problematic Pan a follow. He's a good guy, right? Like, the thing about being right, I don't know, that came out of left field, but still, he's a good guy, and I think you'll find him entertaining. All right. Last but not least, we have Doobie, Dark Lord and Savior, right? Adding so much to these things, right? Even if it's just his presence alone, right? Inspires fear, terror, hope, salvation in all of us. So, Doobie, thank you.
Can you keep going? I was almost done.
He was good. He was good.
Oh boy.
Well, to people in chat, I'm Doobie. Don't call people or don't point out people's race in debates, and yeah, that's about it. Love you guys.
Love you too. All right.
Unless you're white, like Connor.
Shout out the server.
Unless you're Hispanic, like Doobie. God.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm a brown American.
Too far, Connor. Too far.
Too far.
But okay.
Doobie would never bring your race into anything.
Well, he just
fucking white devil.
Fucking I got so many bad things to say.
Oh boy, when I log out of here,
I know the kind of night that Doobie is.
It's memes.
Work, buddy.
Everyone, we are going to continue on to our open walk-on panel right after this, right? Any of you here can come and join, especially since we will might be continuing this conversation. So you guys want to be a part of that, we'd love to have you, right? But if not, that's okay. Thanks for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion with my community. I know they appreciate just as much as I do. Have a great one. Bye.
Catch you guys. I don't know what Fanatic said when I left after he shot my blood pressure to 160 over 110 because he literally called me a fucking idiot while being absolutely wrong by what he was talking about. But this is real. Like this is I'm not faking it with Fanatic. He legitimately fucking pisses me off. And we've had a good conversation in the past, but he does a variety of things. Number one, he tells people how to talk. Shut the fuck up. You're not the moderator. Let people fucking talk how they want to talk. Who the fuck are you to be telling other motherfuckers how to talk? Shut the fuck up. Number two, he'll basically like latch on to half a perspective and then he'll talk shit about it like that was your whole fucking point. And it literally has like maybe 30% to do with your point. That's why when he was trying to go after me earlier on in the fucking panel, I just let it slide by because he was like, you're saying this, that, the other, which was weird because he just kind of like flip-flopped in the conversation. First he was pro-militia, then he was like kind of like trying to needle my position. And I was like, yeah, that would be a great That would be a great criticism if I had said any of the things that you just fucking said. I didn't say any of that shit, so what the fuck are you talking about? Number 3, people need to stop being so fucking mean to Rob Noor. It was actually nice having a little bit of conservative, libertarian fucking backup. I get that, like, he's a conspiracy theorist and fucking people don't like him because he talks about the Democrats and shit. I'll probably DM him about that because, honestly, with my one-on-one, I found him to be, like, a lot more reasonable than I initially... I'll talk to unreasonable people all day. I don't give a fuck. But I found him a lot more reasonable. And on top of that, I think if he just modified his rhetoric just a little bit, it wouldn't antagonize the lefties in the room who are being incredibly antagonistic to him. And then at that point, he could kind of say, like, you know, hey, I'm not being rude to you. Stop being fucking rude to me. And then maybe we could actually have a half-decent conversation about what we believe. And, you know, I know a lot of conservatives or a lot of centrists and right-wingers or whatever who refuse to come on these panels because basically what happens is they just get treated like fucking assholes the whole time. Now, I'm an asshole, and I love being an asshole, so I don't care about that. That's totally fine. Treat me like a fucking asshole. I'll come at you, kind of the same way that I did after fucking Fanatic tonight. So, and then kind of getting to that point, I was thinking that if I came back and he was still talking shit, I was not going to let it go. Because I've let so much shit from that fucking dude slide where he's talked shit to people or he's monopolized the conversation or he's ranted forever or he's called people disgusting or he's called them an asshole or an idiot or something like that. And so to be caught with your fucking pants down that bad after calling somebody a fucking idiot, I wasn't going to let it go. So if he came after me, I would basically be like, I would be fucking embarrassed if I was you, and I would actually be leaving the conversation right now to be caught with my fucking pants down after being such a fucking dickhole to everybody the entire fucking show. That was what I was literally about ready to fucking go nuclear on his ass. So, Fanatic, if you ever watch this, if somebody fucking clips it and fucking sends it to you, you know, we could have a good relationship if you wanted a good relationship. I'm perfectly fine, you know, turning the other cheek, letting fucking old things be gone. But as long as you and I are on fucking panels and you're talking to everybody else like they're a fucking idiot, I'm gonna call you out. As long as you spend 20% of your fucking talking time, you know, basically telling other people how to fucking talk, I'm gonna call you out. And if you come after me and you're fucking wrong, I'm gonna nail you to the fucking wall. I'm gonna harpoon you to the fucking wall with whatever stupid shit that you say to me, and I will make it uncomfortable. I'll make it uncomfortable for you, and I'll make it uncomfortable for Prime since he's your fucking friend. I will literally embarrass you in front of fucking everybody else, and I will fucking make it an issue until I get kicked for being a fucking dick. And it's not because I don't love Prime. I don't want to fucking ruin his show, but I am so sick of you being an entitled fucking cunt to everyone around you. I'm done with it. I'm fucking done with it. I let it pass the first couple of times. I let it pass a few more times. We had that good one-on-one conversation. You decided that wasn't enough and you still wanted to be a cunt on fucking shows. I don't care if it's a fucking persona. Either fucking come correct or don't come correct at all. Because if this was like real life or whatever, you know how this would be fucking going. You already know how this would be fucking going. And I would be expecting the same shit out of you the way that you fucking talk to me. So, you know, come at me like a fucking asshole. I'm gonna fucking embarrass you and I'm gonna make you look like a fucking dick in front of everybody, and I'm not gonna let it go. So balls in your court, fucking buddy. I'm not dealing with that shit. I'm not fucking, you know, I try to be polite. I try to be fucking nice. And, you know, I'm not saying that I am nice. I'm saying I try to be nice. And I try to give people as much fucking good faith and charitability as I fucking can. But if you come at me like a fucking dickhole, I'm gonna nail you to the fucking wall. I am so done with that shit. But if you